Part 70. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 719. Rook 2 and 6 across. Advance the troops. Mount. Dumbo. The two of them were playing back and forth on the chessboard without giving an inch. Although I didn't complete Bian's killing order, I got a part of Madada's godhead. Isn't this credit enough to exchange for something real? With that said, he jumped on the horse in front of him and stepped on the cannon on the chessboard. Credit is credit, but how much do you want for a part of Madada's godhood? Do you really think this is a wholesale market and you can take as much as you want? General. Then please give me something real. This is what my grandson has worked hard for. If you give him so little, will he still work hard next time? Why don't you let the horse eat grass if it can't run away? You're a rebel. Last time my sheep was stolen by you, should I just let it go? Draw the horse. Let's go back to the same code. If I steal your sheep, you punish me with a salary. You won't give it to me anyway, but credit is credit. If you win the battle, you won't give me a reward. Change the cannon. I sent it. Not enough. In front of the chessboard, Shuigui and Du Ziren looked at each other, and the bastard glared at Meng Bin. No, it should be the tip of the needle to the wheat on, not giving in. Seeing that this game of chess was about to become a dead end, Du Ziren finally relaxed. Some time ago, Ksitagarba Bodhisattva sent 2 bottles of wine. You can take them. Alcohol? My grandson is young and doesn't drink. Shuigui rolled his eyes and looked like he was ignoring the rabbit, but in fact he made the personal guards behind Du Ziren sweat for him. After so many years, there are not many ghosts who dare to bargain in front of Du Ziren. What's more, if they can quarrel to such an extent, are they really not afraid that His Majesty will send him to the 18 hells and not be reincarnated? Du Ziren glared at him angrily. These 2 bottles of wine, one to cleanse the marrow and remove the hair, and one to reshape one's body, plus those things from the genius, aren't they enough? Shuigui immediately smiled when he heard this. His eyes rolled around, and he glanced at the longbow hanging on the wall. Emperor, my grandson still lacks a useful weapon. Look. Hearing this, Du Ziren's expression suddenly turned ugly. Can I see you? Tell me what you want. Hey, no more, no more. Seeing that the ghost emperor was getting impatient, Shuigui immediately changed his words and denied it, but his words changed. I can rent it. Rent. Du Ziren raised his finger and pointed at Shuigui, and sneered, old guy, you are a very thief. If you don't do things for me, just because of your mouth, I will send you to tongue-pulling hell sooner or later. Shuigui smiled and said nothing, pushing the chess piece forward. I only have 1 pawn in my hand now. If I don't help more, this game of chess will be useless. The pawn takes 1 step forward and is blinded by the elephant's eyes, and the next step is the double cannon general. When Du Ziren saw this, he immediately lost interest and waved his hand. Take it, but let me make it clear to you, this bow is rented to you. If something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, I'll take care of it. After Shuigui finished speaking, Du Ziren said nothing more. The chess game could no longer be played. At this moment, a personal guard came and whispered in Du Ziren's ear. Hey, Black Mountain Flag. Is it him? Du Ziren frowned and started counting with his fingers. Shuigui stood up knowingly when he saw this. Since the emperor has official duties, I will take my leave. Well, that's fine. Let's go down the mountain after we leave. Don't let anyone see you. Du Ziren thought for a moment, then reached out and grabbed a handful in front of Shuigui, as if completely erasing the traces on his body, obviously not intending to let anyone know that Shuigui had been here today. When Shuigui heard that the back mountain was gone, he felt unhappy. The back mountain was barren and had no chicken feathers. How could it be compared with the front mountain, which had sheep and chickens. Fortunately, the treasures exchanged this time were enough, and with the bow, it was a fruitful harvest. After putting away his things, Shwegoi was ready to go down the mountain. Duziran didn't wait for him anymore, he turned into a stream of light and headed straight to the foot of the front mountain. At the foot of Luofu mountain, a convoy of vehicles was already parked and waiting. Woof woof woof. Before Duziran and others got closer, they heard a burst of barking. When they looked closely, they saw a big black dog standing at the foot of the mountain showing off its power. This dog has jet black hair, a tiger head and wolf eyes, a body as big as a calf, and it can spit out white flames from its mouth from time to time, which is really majestic. Fight! Duziran couldn't help but shine brightly when he saw it. This was a rare divine dog. Among the great ancient gods, Zhurong, the god of fire, had a beast beside him. This beast feeds on fire, and when it breathes, it can turn an area of the world into a sea of fire and purgatory. There is a female beast in the sea of fire hell, which is the guardian ghost general of the sea of fire hell. The Hudu in front of him looks small, probably just a newborn cub. If it were an adult Hudu, my Luofu mountain would probably be burned into a sea of fire at this moment. When Fudo saw Duziran coming, he instinctively felt fear. He immediately tucked his tail between his legs, turned around and jumped onto the shaft of the car. The car curtain was opened, golden nails poked out from the car curtain, and he patted the dog's head gently. Then the car curtain opened, revealing a feminine face, wearing a black crown, and a jet black feathered coat. His voice sounded like a man or a woman. He stepped down from the carriage and came to Duziran. Hey, I haven't seen this in many years. Why are you still looking so lifeless? When the cronies behind Duziran heard this, their eyes suddenly filled with anger. But Duziran said indifferently, if you don't stay in your black mountain, why do you come to my place? What else can be done? Everyone knows it, bring it. Presumptuous. Seeing how bold this man was, Duziran's cronies immediately stared with murderous looks on their faces. But the visitor didn't care, and instead laughed out loud, he, such a murderous aura, worthy of the elite of the underworld, but still a little behind my black tiger cavalry. Hearing the black tiger cavalry, all the close friends were shocked, and then they knew the identity of the person coming. The great demon king of the Black Emperor of the North, Xiao Gongsun. The underworld is vast, and apart from the registered gods of the underworld, there are also some powerful gods that few outsiders know about. Just like these demon kings, they are one of the extremely ancient gods. They once ruled the north of the underworld when the land was most chaotic, and they were great demon kings who killed for the master. It wasn't until Fujun entered the underworld and enthroned the god of Hades that these ancient gods finally retired from the stage and secluded themselves behind the scenes. Therefore, it is normal for Duziran not to recognize these cronies around him. But if we talk about the Black Tiger Cavalry, they are the famous ghost army in the underworld. Therefore, when everyone heard these three words and looked at the emperor's expression, they suddenly realized that they knew the identity of the visitor. Let's talk up the mountain. It's rare for you to come. Let's have some drinks before we talk. Duziran did not answer Xiao Gongsun's words, but just asked him to go up the mountain. Seeing this, Xiao Gongsun nodded and kicked the black dog beside him. The black dog immediately let out a wail and ran away. You're a newly trained pup. He's not even a month old yet. He's an uneducated thing. If he goes up the mountain, he might frighten your horse. Just let him play outside. Let's go. Xiao Gongsun said with a smile. Duziran nodded and didn't take it to heart. He just saw the dog running towards the back hill and couldn't help but feel a little thump in his heart. He was about to say something, but Xiao Gongsun reached out and grabbed Duziran's arm. He just listened to him. He said with a half smile, I came today and brought you a jar of good wine. We won't go home until we get drunk. With that said, he pulled Du Ziren up the mountain. At the same time, Shwegoi hurried down the mountain with his things on the back mountain path. He saw that the road was full of dead graves and desolate forests, and there were skeletons and bones everywhere. Occasionally, 2 or 3 little ghosts can be seen wandering around, but as soon as they notice Shwegoi, they disappear without a trace. Shwegoi walked all the way down the mountain, muttering to himself that the emperor was also cautious, fearing that he had stolen his sheep last time and was on guard against him this time. As he walked, he picked up the longbow behind him and started playing with it. Matching the longbow are 3 arrows. Each arrow looks different and has different functions. But each arrow has a unique ability. Although it is a rental, as for when to pay it back, that is a matter in the future. Shwegoi gently held the longbow with his fingers, and suddenly he saw a big black dog running fast in the forest in the distance. The black dog was very fast. In an instant, it caught up with the 2 little ghosts. Before the little ghosts screamed, he opened his mouth and spat out a ball of white flames, incinerated the imp into ashes. What a big dog! Shwegoi was startled and hurriedly hid behind a stone. He squinted and saw that the dog was pressing a kid to the ground. The dog's thick paws were rubbing back and forth on the kid's body, causing the kid to scream. But he never tires of it. Seeing this, Shwegoi glanced at the longbow in his hand, and then poked his head out to see the big black dog sticking out its butt and wagging its thick tail, revealing the weak point under the tail. After taking a look, he found that there was indeed no one around, and glanced up and down at the big black dog. I saw this dog was as fat and strong as a calf, and my heart moved. You can't eat mutton, but dog meat is also a great supplement. As he said that, he took out the vermilion longbow from the quiver, bent the bow and set an arrow, and pulled it casually. I saw veins popping up on Shwegoi's arm. The longbow was pulled open for half a month, but it could no longer be pulled. Just when the arrow quietly poked out of the stone and aimed at the black dog's back door, his fingers relaxed. Puff! The next second, the pupils of the big black dog, which was still sticking out its butt, suddenly tightened, and then it opened its bloody mouth. Before it could scream, a vermilion arrow came from the black dog. It flew out of the mouth. Seeing the black dog lying motionless on the ground, Shwegoi quickly stepped forward, called out a kinkin cloth, covered the black dog with one roll, then put the black dog's body into the kinkin cloth, and then pulled it out from the ground. The arrows flew away without a trace. After waiting for about 2 hours, at the foot of Luofu mountain, a loud roar was heard. Who dares to kill my dog? The angry roar caused the mountains and rivers within a radius of 800 miles of Luofu mountain to tremble. Following the thoughts like a tide, they quickly swept through every corner of this underworld, causing countless ghosts to tremble in fear and panic. It's a pity that the real murderer has already escaped at this moment, leaving the big devil's anger to rage, and there is nothing he can do for a while. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 720. Ouch, it hurts me so much. In the manor, Taoist Lingxiu and others had already left, and the old man of the Mei family also led people down the mountain early. There are only 3 people in Zhuangzi: Su Tong, Gao Zhou, and Mei Du. Su Tong and Mei Du were okay, but Gao Zhou was really beaten a bit badly. He was the one who received Zhang Haishan's slap. If it had been any other great master, he would have died. In addition, Taoist Lingxiu helped him heal his injuries, and Su Tong gave him the 5 injury spirit pills, so his injuries were no longer serious. In comparison, De Ya and the others were seriously injured. This is what really makes Su Tong angry. In order to protect himself, Dia forcibly cut off his tail to become a Taoist. In the end, he was not only beaten back to his original shape, but only 3 of the original 6 tails were left. It may not be easy to recover. As for wealth and good luck, the injuries are not that serious, but they are not optimistic either. Fortunately, He had refined enough elixirs and it was not life-threatening yet, but Su Tong promised that he would make the entire Qing Cheng mountain repay the debt twice as much. Damn it, this son of a bitch, we don't owe him anything, why does he just open his mouth and bite? Gao Zhou greeted Zhang Haisheng with his mouth, but felt bad luck in his heart. Mei Du looked at Su Tong, brother Su, do you really want to participate in Luo Tianda dipping? Although he was very aware of Su Tong's strength, the enlightened heavenly being was a top master who had not appeared again in hundreds of years. Besides, Lushan Dazan is the territory of Tianchi Cave. If Su Tong goes in like this, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of a bird. I've made the young master anxious. The young master will go home and invite my ancestors out. Gao Zhou looked so angry that he wanted to eat Zhang Haisheng alive. It's just that Su Tong didn't express his position on this issue, because there was no need to express his position. Since the decision had been made, just do it. It would be useless to say more. Doesn't Zhang Haisheng like to argue? He will fight with him to the end until he tramples him under his feet and regains the mood he had today. Mei Du, you can ask your grandfather to bring back the wine in the wine warehouse. Just leave some for me. No, brother Su, since you are the owner of the manor, everything here belongs to you. It has been clearly stated in the ancestral precepts that our Mei family can afford to take it and let it go. As for my father and my uncles, they didn't dare raise any objections to this. Mei Du waved his hands repeatedly to indicate that this was not necessary. When Su Tong heard this, he didn't force it, we still have to rest here for one day. You go back first and pick us up early tomorrow morning. Oh well. Mei Du didn't know what Su Tong was going to do, but he didn't ask any questions. After agreeing with Su Tong on a time to meet tomorrow, he hurried down the mountain. After Mei Du left, Gao Zhou turned his eyes to Su Tong, boss, what should we do next? Wait. What are you waiting for? Gao Zhou scratched his head, wondering what Su Tong was waiting for. In fact, they are quite short of time now. The Luo Tianda dipping ceremony will be completed in 7 days. Every minute of the 7 days is precious to them. Wait until master comes back. As Su Tong spoke, he lay down on the chair, casually called out the prop book, and began to check the prop cards he had received from this script one by one. In fact, this should be the first thing to do after returning. Who would have thought that so many things would happen to him just for a short nap? His eyes scanned these prop cards. Su Tong felt somewhat relieved. Because it was a forced arrival, he didn't get many prop cards this time. Fortunately, the quality of each prop card was very high. King Kong Demon Hand. The bearer is familiar with the Buddhist secret art Vajra Demon Suppressing Hand. Active Skill 1, Conquer Demons. It consumes 300 script points. After activation, the palm technique will gain the armor-piercing effect. Duration, 30 minutes. Cooling time, 20 minutes. Active Skill 2, Demon Removal. It consumes 300 script points. After activation, the palm technique will gain the spell-breaking effect. Duration, 30 minutes. Cooling time, 20 minutes. Passive skill, Fudo Myo. When using the palm technique, there is a 30% probability of summoning the Fudo Ming King Dharma. Fudo Mingu's Dharma, centered on himself, has a radius of 20 meters, and the power of all Taoist, magical, and demonic spells is reduced by 30%. Note, even though I, the Buddha, am compassionate, I also have the wrath of King Fudo. This prop card came at the right time, and besides, I really lacked Buddhism and melee skills. Personal combat and grappling skills alone were obviously not enough now. With this prop card, your melee strength will be greatly improved again. Then he looked down again. Tyrants. Passive Skill 1, Overlord Physique. For the bearer, the physique is increased by 14%, the strength is increased by 14%, and the agility is decreased by 14%. Active Skill 1, Overlord's Wrath. It consumes 300 script points. After activation, the size increases by 20%, the strength increases by 30%, and the agility decreases by 20%. While Overlord's Wrath lasts, you are immune to all physical controls, immune to mental controls below level 6, and your jumping ability is increased by 50%. This item card made Su Tong feel like he was eating it. Although the improvement was very high, the decrease was also very serious for him, so he directly traded it to Gao Zhou. On the one hand, his defense is already strong enough, and the improvement brought by this prop card is limited. On the other hand, for Gao Zhou, the improvement effect is very obvious. In particular, the 50% increase in jumping ability is tailor-made for a zombie like him. Hussar's Order. Special prop cards, which cost 500 script points, can forcibly upgrade an army, up to 300 in number, by 1 or 2 levels, up to the highest limit of Divine Warrior Cavalry. Reusable. Cooling time, 30 days. Seeing this prop card, the first thing Su Tong thought of was to upgrade his Yin soldiers. In fact, there are not a few Yin soldiers in his captivity, but the quality is so poor that in the second section of Beishinko, there should be hundreds of Yin soldiers forming a square charge, but the power has dropped a lot. Therefore, Su Tong often performs the second paragraph, followed by the third paragraph. Now that he has this prop card, he can fill in the gaps in this aspect. The last thing left is the silver level team building order. This is the treasure that I have longed for. Although I don't know what benefits the silver level team has, I think it shouldn't be much worse than William's team. At least there should always be an internal team channel. Thinking of this, he was already eager to give it a try, but he always had to eat his food one bite at a time. There was no rush to build a team. It would not be too late to build a team after entering the exhibition tomorrow night. Tonight. Su Tong stood up and looked at Gao Zhou. Idiot, let's go. Ah. Gao Zhou raised his head, thinking he was getting ready to go down the mountain, but unexpectedly, Su Tong reached out and grabbed his ear. This way. As Su Tong spoke, he let go of Gao Zhou's ears and used his hands to move forward with the mountain button, calling out all the evil soldiers in his virtual reality. After counting the number, there were quite a few, there were actually 285. But in terms of quality, looking at the scrap metal worn by these Yin soldiers, and even the rusty condition of their spears, one can easily imagine their combat effectiveness. Upon seeing this, Su Tong took out the Hussar's Order and raised the token high. Following the prompt of 500 script points consumption, the token suddenly flashed with a hazy gray light, shrouding the row of Yin soldiers in front of him. Under the gray light, a layer of metallic luster appeared on the bodies of these Yin soldiers. As soon as the light dissipated, the Yin soldiers in front of Su Tong suddenly took on a new look. They were already covered with a new layer of mail, and the spears in their hands were already in place. It was replaced by a pure Zanmadeo, and it was also equipped with a bow and arrow. Ding! You used the prop card Hussar's Order and your troops upgraded 2 levels in a row to reach the level of cavalry. Hearing the prompt, Su Tong thought in his mind that the level of the Iron Cavalry did not sound high. Although he didn't know how many levels there were compared to the Hussars, he wanted to know that there was a big difference between the two. Not even a little bit. The so-called Hussar is definitely the highest honor among all cavalry. The Hussar is like a flying cavalry in the clouds. Ever since Huo Qubing led the Hussars and sealed the wolf as Su, this is the glory that all cavalrymen long for. The next upgrade will have to wait until 30 days later. Move it. Su Tong's first order after upgrading the team was to have the team rush into the wine cellar to act as porters. The Mei family's wine cellar contains countless fine wines, grains, and all kinds of messy ironware. Since I no longer intend to stay here, I have to take all these things away. It doesn't matter if my prop book is not enough. I will move them all into the space between reality and reality. They are all century-old cellars. I treat them as filial piety to my master and master. Just as Su Tong was directing these yin soldiers to move, he suddenly heard a rustling sound when his ears moved. Looking back, I saw 5 furry little guys emerging from the bushes carrying a small cauldron. Hey! You are here. Seeing these 5 furry black mezons, Su Tong finally remembered them. There was no way that these 5 little guys had such a low sense of existence that they were easily ignored by him. Gejigji. The 5 little guys gathered around and made strange noises. Under their furry hair, they opened a pair of big eyes and stared at themselves. Then, like offering a treasure, they handed a small cauldron to Su. In front of children. Hey, where did you pick up the rags from? Su Tong reached out and picked up the small tripod and asked with a smile. It's no wonder Su Tong doesn't like this thing. This small tripod looks no more than the size of an adult's hand. It's boxy and covered with dark green patina. The most interesting thing is that the writing on the tripod can no longer be seen clearly, and the belly of the tripod is actually a hole as big as a thumb underneath. But the black mezons immediately objected to Su Tong's words. They surrounded Su Tong and screamed strangely. Then they saw that it didn't make sense, so they simply started to push Su Tong with their chubby bodies. It's a pity that their furry bodies were too weak. They pushed Su Tong hard, but instead of knocking Su Tong down, they knocked themselves to the ground and rolled and flew out. Seeing how excited they were, Su Tong threw the cauldron into the prop book with the attitude of giving it a try. Su Tong, who had no hope at first, his eyes gradually became dull, and even his breathing began to become short for a moment. Head, is this some kind of treasure? Gao Zhou saw that Su Tong didn't look right and asked quickly. After Su Tong was stunned for a few seconds, he silently showed Gao Zhou the entry in the prop book. Gao Zhou took a closer look and was immediately stunned. On this prop card, 9 figures stood like 9 mountains in the sea of clouds. The figures of the 9 people are constantly changing, as if they are dancing or singing, a bit like the movements of the northeastern dance Daxian, constantly changing their postures. Dynamic cover. Gao Zhou's breathing suddenly became rapid. The dynamic cover alone showed the quality of this thing. I quickly took a look and saw the 3 characters 9 Immortals Cauldron written clearly on the entry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 721. Master Wang, how is my master? Zhang Haisheng and others stood in front of Taoist Dongxuan's room and waited anxiously. Although he is an enlightened heavenly being, he is not good at medical skills. Although he used his true energy to protect the master's heart in time, it is hard to say what happened. Seeing an old Chinese doctor who was good at medical skills come out, he couldn't help asking eagerly. Several other elders are also very anxious. Luo Tiandazan is in front of them in these 7 days. If something goes wrong with the headmaster of Qingcheng Mountain at this time, the impact will be huge. Okay, my life was saved, but this. Seeing him hesitating, several elders were going crazy. After all, I'm getting older, and my anger attacks my heart. Although my heart is fine, it still hurts my mind. I've had a stroke. I'm afraid I won't be able to move in the future. This old Chinese medicine doctor is also an apricot forest expert on Qingcheng Mountain, but he is very helpless about this. To say it's due to difficulty moving is an understatement. Even if he comes for acupuncture every day, at best he can speak normally, but it may be difficult for his limbs to move freely like a normal person. The reason for this is, on the one hand, because Taoist Dongxian is old, and on the other hand, he was too stimulated today. Qingcheng Mountain's 1000-year luck has evaporated in half, almost killing half of his life. Fortunately, he has a strong foundation and can still hold on. But then Su Tong forcibly took away the plum tree, which really touched the roots of Qing Chen Mountain. You must know that the origin of this plum tree is mysterious, and it can be called the source of Qing Chen Mountain's spiritual veins. The huge Qing Chen Mountain has roots everywhere, but now it was suddenly pulled out, cutting off the roots of Qing Chen Mountain. As the saying goes, if the mountain is not high, there will be immortals. The plum tree is the fairy in the mountains. Now the immortal is gone. It cannot be seen in this period of time, but within 1 year, the beautiful scenery of Qing Chen Mountain will be greatly reduced, and within 3 years, the beauty of Qing Chen Mountain will disappear. If this continues, Qing Chen Mountain's luck will most likely continue to evaporate. It just evaporates more slowly. In fact, Mei Xian's original intention was to leave with Su Tong and branch out to stay here, so that it would not have a great impact on Qing Chen Mountain. However, the two families had already fallen out last night. Mei Xian was not ambiguous at all and directly took away all the spiritual energy, leaving an empty shell. Fortunately, Zhang Haisheng noticed something was wrong at that time and quickly injected a burst of Genkai, allowing Taoist Dongxian to relax. As a result, as soon as I got home and before I could speak, I learned that the treasure in Qing Chen Mountain had been stolen. Right now Taoist Dongxuan's head was buzzing. In modern terms, it was because the CPU could no longer hold the pressure and it was almost scrapped on the spot. Uncle Master, what is the origin of this 9 Immortals cauldron that makes Master so anxious? Zhang Haisheng turned around and asked the old man beside him. The old Taoist sighed, that is the sacred object in our Tianqi cave in Qing Chen Mountain. It is said to be a magic weapon made by 9 Immortals. It is said to have the ability to move mountains and fill seas. It is regarded as a sacred object for our religion. Enshrined on the dome of Lejun Pavilion, it is protected by 3 spiritual talismans, and the ancient artifact is restrained and elegant. Outsiders will never be able to detect it, so it has been in peace for hundreds of years. How could it be stolen? Another elder was also heartbroken. The 9 Immortals cauldron is the treasure of my Qing Chen Mountain. It has the same status as the Wuodang true martial sword, and the dragon and tiger flag of Longhu Mountain. Scare. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Who would have thought that the origin of the small broken cauldron that is usually placed on the dome of Lejun Pavilion would be so great? In fact, Qing Chen Mountain deserves its misfortune. When luck evaporated, the luck of the entire Qing Chen Mountain dropped rapidly. It happened that the 9 Immortals cauldron was touched and suppressed the churning geology of Qing Chen Mountain. The 3 spiritual talismans that originally protected the 9 Immortals cauldron were also forcibly broken through by the power of the 9 Immortals cauldron. Ordinarily, there is no one in Lejun Pavilion at the moment, so no one will notice. In addition, this small cauldron may not look big, but it is terrifyingly heavy. It is difficult for ordinary adults to lift it, let alone from such a height on the dome. Take it down. But by chance, 5 fur balls slipped in. These black mezons are not very strong, but luckily they know how the 5 ghosts carry it. No matter how much you weigh, they can still carry it like flying. At this moment, the tripod fell into Su Tong's hands. It was like a meat bun and a beggar. Gao Zhou swallowed hard as he looked at the entries in the props book. 9 Immortals Cauldron. Qing Chen Mountain is the most precious treasure in the mountains, the luck of a religion, and the peace of mountains and rivers. Active Skill 1, 1 tripod holds the world together. It costs 300 script points. After activation, it can summon the Immortal Cauldron to forcibly suppress the opponent's luck. During the duration of the skill, script points will be consumed again every 3 minutes. Cooling time, 30 hours. Note, who dares to win the world? Active Skill 2, 9 Immortals Refining Formation. Spend 9,000 script points to summon the 9 Immortals and activate the 9 Immortals Refining Formation. While the formation lasts, every 30 seconds, 900 script points are consumed. Cooling time, 49 days. Note, I have a period of time where I can refine immortality, gods, and heaven. Active skill 3. Damaged. Passive skill. Damaged. Looking at the entries in the props book, Gao Zhou was dumbfounded. I'll go, isn't it time to take off? I have seen pie falling from the sky, but I have never seen such a big pie falling from the sky, and it happened to fall into their hands. High-level dynamic prop cards, placed anywhere, others would break their scalps to grab them, but it fell into their hands so easily, which made Gao Zhou feel like he was in a dream, and for a time he wondered if he had not woken up. You have made a meritorious service this time. Go back and take care of Daya first. Your benefits will be indispensable. Su Tong looked at the 5 fur balls and felt that these 5 little guys were actually quite cute. As for where this cauldron came from, is it important? Of course it's not important. What's important is that it falls into your hands. This is your treasure. No one wants to spit it out. But then again, although the skill of this prop card looks very strong, after looking at it carefully, Su Tong was a little unhappy. Without him, it would cost money, really money. People are like 1,000 taels of gold when a cannon goes off. The skill of this cauldron is more expensive than a cannon. If I can barely accept the consumption of the first skill, the second skill is simply a bottomless hole. 9,000 script points, which even ordinary players may not be able to get by selling iron. Not to mention that 1 minute costs 1,800 script points. Especially if the enemy is not beaten to death before he is burnt into a pauper, even if Su Tong holds tens of thousands of script points in his hand, he may not be able to withstand such a burn. It made him hesitate for a long time even if he wanted to try the power of this cauldron. It's okay, it's not necessarily that I can't afford it. Su Tong suddenly remembered that if paired with his Time Walker skill, Traveler's Seal, he might not be able to afford it. I'm in a hurry, I'm going bankrupt, I can survive for half an hour no problem. What? What if the opponent is not killed in half an hour? Then look at this cauldron, does it look like a urinal? Take the 5 fur balls back to the entrance of the hall. On the other side, with the Yin soldiers continuously carrying supplies, they enter the space between reality and reality. Master Song Lao had to let the mountain ghost dig a cave in the backyard to store these supplies. These things are the inventory accumulated by the Mei family for hundreds of years. Even if the Mei family moved out, they never thought about touching these things. Not only did they not dare to mess with them easily, but they also needed people to come to fixed points all year round to repair and organize them. These are the foundation of the Mei family's accumulation. Once the Mei family fails in external operations, what is inside is the foundation for the Mei family's huge family to turn around. Forget about food, these cinnabar, medicinal herbs, iron tools, and other materials are all treasures of high quality. The most important thing is the wine. Because Qingchen Mountain has special geology, it is very suitable for storing fine wine. So the Mei family stocked up a large amount of wine here, including some medicinal wines that were more than 100 years old. Now that Su Tong has inherited Miai's Huang, these things have naturally become Su Tong's belongings. The old Taoist intercepted a jar casually, opened the seal of the wine jar, and suddenly the aroma of wine overflowed. He lifted his nose and sniffed, and there was also a faint medicinal fragrance. The old Taoist squinted and took a small sip, and immediately he was excited. Smash it, smash it. Mouth. What a good wine. It's a century-old wine. It's more expensive than gold if you keep it out there. It's a pity that such a good wine, it's a pity that there is no appetizer. As soon as the old man finished speaking, he suddenly heard Shuegui's voice coming from behind him, who said no? Isn't this coming? I saw Shuegui throwing a black guy on the ground as he spoke. At first, the old Taoist thought it was a big black cow that Shuigui stole from somewhere, but then he took a closer look and said, "Such a big dog. Your dog can swallow fire?" Shuigui asked rhetorically. "Huh? Breathing fire?" The old Taoist was stunned for a moment, put down the wine jar in his hand, stretched out his hand to open the dog's mouth, and took a closer look, and his eyebrows suddenly lit up. "Infinite Heavenly Lord, old guy, you are going against the will of heaven. Is this a disaster?" "It should be. Anyway, I saw white flames coming out of its mouth." In fact, Shuigui couldn't tell what the origin of this dog was. He just felt that this dog should be some kind of rare and exotic animal, which was very similar to the disaster in the classic of mountains and seas. "My dear, you are so brave. You dare to touch this thing. You are really not afraid that the big boss in the underworld will cut you to pieces?" The old Taoist knew that Shuigui was bold, but he didn't expect that the old man was so bold. This rare beast cannot be said to be a mythical beast, but it is extremely rare. It must be a pet kept in captivity by some big bosses. Fudo is a rare divine dog. When it comes to divine dogs, you may not have any idea. But if you say that this guy is about the same level as the mythical roaring sky dog, you've almost got the idea. Think about it, if you gave Erlangshan's roaring dog to Huo Huo, what would Erlangshan's expression be like? "I'm afraid even if the Jade Emperor comes, he won't be able to protect you." Maybe the kind that beats up the Jade Emperor as well. Therefore, the veteran's worries are not without reason. There are too many ancient gods in the underworld. If they really come to visit, they are really not enough people to fill their teeth. Hearing this, Shuigui smiled instead. "What are you afraid of? You are also a person who does great things, so you have such courage? All the traces on my body were wiped away before I left, and the King of Heaven can't find us." "Can. Stop talking nonsense. Do you want to eat?" Shuigui became impatient and asked, glaring at the old man. If the old Taoist still hesitates and refuses to eat the meat that is put to his mouth, he will be sorry to the founder of the Sanking dynasty. "Come on, I will heat up the oil in the pot and let you see the craftsmanship of the poor Taoist." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 722. The veteran's movements are clean and neat, and he can slaughter pigs and dogs with ease. The hair was removed, the skin was shaved, and the body was disemboweled. The black dog, which looked like a calf, could be manipulated by the experienced hands at will. It only took a moment for the dog meat to be placed on the pot. Zzz. Spoonful after spoonful of hot oil was poured on it, and soon the aroma filled the air, and the dog meat gradually began to turn golden under the splashing of hot oil. This is obviously a slow skill. Each spoonful of hot oil must be evenly pressed so that every inch of the dog meat is fried thoroughly and crispy. The oil temperature should not be too high, otherwise it will burn easily and taste bitter. And it can't be too small, otherwise it won't be able to be blown through. Fortunately, the old Taoist seems to have special experience in cooking dog meat. He works slowly and carefully, and the old Taoist hands can get it just right. After Su Tong commanded the Yin soldiers to completely evacuate Miai's Huang, when he walked in with Gao Zhou, the old Taoist had already started to raise the kitchen knife, cut the dog meat, stir-fry and cook it. "Meet the master." Here Gao Zhou walked in and saw the eldest princess sitting cross-legged on the tree. "Quickly salute the eldest princess. The technique of reversing life and death is a top secret." The eldest princess gave him this technique. Regardless of whether he recognizes it or not, he is regarded as his master. Gao Zhou did not dare to neglect this point. It's a pity that the eldest princess glanced at Gao Zhou and frowned. "Don't call me master. There are only 7 levels of reversal of life and death. How come you don't have the second level yet?" Gao Zhou was also embarrassed when the eldest princess stared at her with disgust. In fact, if calculated according to the real time, It would only take 2 or 3 days for the eldest princess to hand the skill to Su Tong and then transfer it from Su Tong to Gao Zhou. But if you add in the time in the script world, Gao Zhou's cultivation speed is really not that good. It's just that his identity in the last script world was so unpleasant that he spent most of his time running around on tasks. It was in the last 2 months that I had the time to start practicing the method of reversing life and death. Fortunately, Gao Zhou was not stupid. He quickly took out the gift he had prepared early from the prop book, a beautifully crafted hairpin, which he got by accident in Jinxia workshop. It is also an item card with a small passive that can nourish a woman's skin. This thing is not a rarity for the eldest princess, but seeing that Gao Zhou can give her a gift, the eldest princess's cold expression softens a lot. At least they still think about themselves, not about some people. Thinking of the eldest princess looking askance at Su Tong, do you really think you don't know who kicked such big footprints on her butt? By the way, this token is for you. Thank you for helping me in Zaiwei Palace last time. What Su Tong was referring to was that in the dungeon, the eldest princess helped him deal with Lu Ji. Counting 3 missions, this was the end. If he wanted to dispatch the eldest princess at will, he would need the master to give him a new token. The eldest princess took the token, couldn't help but look Su Tong up and down, and joked in a frivolous tone, "Hey, you have reached the pinnacle of Taoism so quickly. It seems that you really don't have any use for me." This. Su Tong reached out and rummaged through his trouser pockets, and said with regret on his face, "The main reason is that you are too expensive, I will do it next time." When it comes to talking heads, Su Tong has never lost to anyone else. The eldest princess curled her lips and stared at Su Tong's neck, as if she could see the squirming arteries in Su Tong's neck through the skin. Even though she had successfully reversed life and death, she still recalled the good times in Kintian prison. He couldn't help but lick the corners of his scarlet lips. As if aware of the eldest princess's eager gaze, Su Tong began to become malicious. Su Tong hurriedly pulled Gao Zhou away and crossed the black water to the small courtyard behind. As soon as you enter the courtyard, you can smell the fragrance of plum blossoms. Looking up, I saw a huge plum tree in the middle of the yard, with plum blossoms already in bloom. Huh? Why does this tree feel so much bigger than outside? Gao Zhou looked at the plum tree and couldn't help but raise his head. He saw that the plum branches were lush and leafy, and the huge trunk extended at least 10 meters long, like a huge umbrella, covering most of the yard. This is not the flowering season, but the plum blossoms are blooming, and the fragrance is astonishing. After Gao Zhou finished speaking, he heard a burst of laughter and saw an old man in white walking out of the plum tree. It was the plum fairy himself. The plum fairy gently stroked his beard and explained to Gao Zhou. "If I appeared in the Yang world, I wouldn't be able to do this, but here, I am no longer restricted by the 4 seasons and terrain, so it is naturally a little bigger than in the Yang world." It was also the first time for Gao Zhou to see Mei Xian, and he couldn't help but stare curiously, not knowing what to call her. When Su Tong saw this, he introduced Mei Xian. "This is the true spirit of this plum tree. Let's just call him Mr. Mei." "Oh, meet Mr. Mei." Gao Zhou quickly saluted. "You're welcome. Guests do as the host does. Guests do as the host does." Mr. Mei has a kind smile and is not arrogant. "Mrs. Mei, you are so polite. When you come here, we are a family. They say that having an elder in the family is like having a treasure. Mrs. Mei, please stop being so polite." The person who spoke was none other than Master Shuigui. The last time he came here, Su Tong had already mentioned the matter of Mr. Mei to his master, so the master was not unfamiliar with Mr. Mei, but was very kind to him. This is not a courtesy. The magic techniques in the world come from Mi's Huang, but the magic techniques of Mi's Huang come from Mr. Mei. Strictly speaking, Mr. Mei is the ancestor of the 9 sects. Therefore, in terms of title, even if he is a master, he must be called Mr. Mei. After Su Tong and Gao Zhou greeted the master, they saw the master's face glowing red. You came at the right time. You are in good luck today. After saying that, he pulled Mr. Mei back. Good food. Gao Zhou looked at Su Tong with a puzzled face, and Su Tong smiled and said, that must be delicious. Seeing his master's face glowing red, Su Tong immediately felt relieved, knowing that his master's trip to Luofu Mountain must have gained a lot. He immediately followed behind with Gao Zhou. When they arrived at the backyard, before they went in, Gao Zhou raised his nose and said, "Hiss, it smells so good. There is a unique fragrance in the air. I can't tell what kind of meat it is, but I just feel that the fragrance is so tangy that it makes people move their index fingers." Looking again, I saw the old Taoist standing in front of a big pot, holding a shovel and stirring constantly. The meat in the huge iron pot is already red and bright, and just by looking at it, you can feel the saliva under your tongue uncontrollably gushing out. There are also 2 jars of fine wine on the side, which is the century-old cellar of Mei family brewing. Good wine and good meat will make your life more comfortable than that of a god. Don't be stunned, come and help. Master Song Lao asked the 2 of them to carry out the table and put the chairs. Only when the old Taoist brought the meat to the table did everyone sit down. The aroma is permeating the air, and paired with the aroma of wine on the side, it's almost making people salivate. The master moved his chopsticks to signal that everyone could move. Gao Zhou couldn't wait to pick up the chopsticks, pick up a piece of meat and put it in his mouth. The more you eat the meat, the more delicious it becomes. Unlike beef and mutton, it has no smell, the skin is crispy and the meat is fragrant. The muscles are elastic and chewy. Gao Zhou almost bit his tongue after eating it. When Su Tong took a bite, he couldn't tell what kind of meat it was. However, just like Gao Zhou, the meat had a unique meaty aroma in his mouth. It was neither fat nor woody, and the more he chewed, the more fragrant it became. Paired with a sip of Meijia's century-old cellar, the aroma of wine overflowed. Instead of diluting the aroma of the meat, it actually enhanced the aroma of the meat. It's delicious, it's delicious. I've never eaten such delicious meat in my whole life. Gao Zhou repeatedly gave Lao Dao a thumbs up. Even the eldest princess couldn't help but take a few more bites. But as he ate, Gao Zhou felt something was wrong. He felt as if his abdomen was on fire, and his whole body began to heat up. He was sweating profusely, as if he had been fished out of water. After a while, Gao Zhou held his stomach and began to feel a little unbearable. What happened to you? Seeing Gao Zhou's appearance, Su Tong asked quickly. Gao Zhou just waved his hand, but before he could speak, he suddenly burped uncontrollably. Boom! He opened his mouth, but spit out a stream of white flames, which shocked everyone. Fortunately, Gao Zhou quickly explained, "It's okay, but master, what kind of meat is this? Why do I suddenly have one more item?" Able. It turned out that Gao Zhou had not eaten much of the meat when he got the prompt from the prop book. The special items you eat gain a special ability, the Heart of Melting Fire. Heart of Melting Fire. You are immune to fire damage below 5th level. Your fire skills add 2. In areas rich in fire elements, your recovery power increases by 20%. After eating a few pieces of meat, he got such a good ability for free, which made Gao Zhou feel ecstatic. Although he didn't have any fire ability, this free thing didn't occupy a slot in the prop book, which was really great. Why? Then he looked at Su Tong, but Su Tong didn't feel anything at all. Just like a normal person. This is meat, a good thing, the master explained with a smile. As for how the meat came from, the master only said that he was humming and singing on his way home, and the dog suddenly bumped into it. He died on the stone in front of him, and he picked it up out of kindness. This was so true that Su Tong almost believed it. However, no one dared to question these words. The master had already said so. Everyone was still very proud and expressed that they wanted to save the soul of this poor dog, so everyone buried their heads in taking 2 big bites. This Fudo was a natural fire beast. Gao Zhou could awaken the molten core after eating it, but Su Tong didn't react at all. He thought that it was probably related to his dark Ilong body. But since it's such a big pot, I can eat it as much as I want without fear that it won't be effective. At this moment, the master suddenly took out 2 small jars of wine and placed them in front of Su Tong and Gao Zhou. Don't just eat meat, just eat with these 2 jars of wine. These 2 small jars were brought out by the master alone. Naturally they are not ordinary objects. Su Tong raised his eyebrows slightly and saw the master looking at him with a smile. Don't worry, this is the first one, there will be more. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 723. The master wants to give Su Tong the feeling of opening a blind box. Good things come layer by layer, which is interesting. Su Tong took the 2 jars of wine and tried to throw them into the prop book. He couldn't help but swallow and spit. Pearl Lotus Golden Dew. Rumor has it that Ksiddhigarba Bodhisattva brewed sake from lotus seeds in the pond of merit. The drinker washes the marrow and hair, and removes all the dirt. Wujin Burning Heart. In the deepest part of the fiery hell, there is a nameless mountain. It is said that the body of a golden crow is buried there, and a strange flower grows there, which is picked and turned into wine. Those who drink it will be reborn and transformed into saints. Sure enough, these 2 jars of wine were indeed extraordinary. Su Tong opened the cork and took a sip. He felt that the former wine was sweet and fragrant, while the latter wine was spicy as fire. Su Tong divided the wine, and Gao Zhou, the eldest princess, and the old Taoist all had it. But Master, and Mei Xian all refused. In the words of Mr. Mei, they are no longer people who need to rely on spiritual practice to move forward. The wine was a waste to them. As for the ancestor zombies and mountain ghosts of the Mei family, they are not yet part of the inner circle, so naturally they have no share. So Su Tong and others started to drink first. When I picked up Pearl Lotus Gold Dew, I felt the wine enter my throat. It was sweet and refreshing, leaving a fragrance on my lips and teeth. The fragrance even wrapped around my tongue, and I felt a refreshing fragrance from my mouth to my stomach. Then he picked up the Wujin Burning Heart on the side and drank it. Suddenly, the completely opposite taste hit him. Just like the name of this wine, it was as domineering. After one sip, even with Su Tong's physique, his whole face turned red. Fortunately, compared with the Shaodao wine he drank before, although this wine was spicy and overbearing, Su Tong could still tolerate it. Hiss, I can't do it anymore. On the side, Gao Zhou cried out that he couldn't stand it after drinking 2 drinks in a row. He was sweating profusely, his internal organs seemed to be in a mess, and his face turned pale from the pain. It was the eldest princess on the side who reminded him to take advantage of the medicinal properties of the wine to practice reversing life and death. Hearing this, Gao Zhou quickly ran to the side and began to meditate. After a while, he fell into samadhi. It's a good wine, but it's a pity that I'm not blessed enough. The old Taoist tasted 2 small glasses, smashed them in his mouth, and stopped drinking. He is now out of the body as a soul. Although the effect of this wine is strong, it has a very limited effect on him, so he took a few sips and tasted the taste. That's it. After the eldest princess drank 2 more drinks, her face began to turn red, and she got up and left to practice at the old crooked neck tree in Hai Shui. Only Su Tong drank 3 or 5 glasses of wine in a row, eating and drinking hard on the meat in front of him. He almost drank 2 jars of wine in the blink of an eye, but he didn't feel anything. It can only be said that his dark Ilong body itself is already very strong, so it is not surprising that he didn't feel it for a while. The master was not in a hurry, and looked at Su Tong eating and drinking with a smile while continuing to take out something for him. What is this? Su Tong took a closer look and saw that what the master took out was a small square box with a talisman attached to it for sealing. Didn't you say that you always fail in making alchemy yourself? This is the solution for you. Hearing this, Su Tong wiped his hands and took the box, tore off the seal on it, opened the box and took a look, but before he could see what it was, a golden light shot out of the box and penetrated into the center of Su Tong's eyebrows. What's this? Su Tong touched his forehead and didn't feel anything strange. He only heard the master continue, "This is the elixir. It is the obsession that some people are unwilling to give up after they die while refining the elixir. When refining the elixir, these obsessions will resonate with you. Help you make elixirs." At this point, the master remembered something and added, "Every time you refine the elixir, the obsession with this thing will be consumed. If the obsession is consumed, it will be freed." The master's meaning is very obvious. He reminds him not to consume all this stuff at once when refining the elixir. As long as he leaves a thought, this guy's obsession will become deeper and deeper. Every time he refining the elixir, he will do his best to assist him. Su Tong nodded to express his understanding, and when he was about to ask something, he suddenly frowned. Not long after, Su Tong felt like there was a fire in his abdomen, which started to rush up to his chest crazily. Kaka kaka. Blue-gray scales began to grow uncontrollably from under Su Tong's skin, and wisps of white flames emerged from the gaps in the scales. "This guy is here to react, let's retreat first." When the old man saw Su Tong's body bursting with flames, he hurriedly retreated, turned around and took 2 steps. He thought of something, turned around and ran back. "You can't waste this." As he said that, he took away the wine and dog meat on the table. After a while, when the master and the others walked away, the flames on Su Tong's body grew bigger and bigger, and crackling sounds could be heard from time to time. White flames shot out of his body, turning him into a small fireball in an instant. Bang bang. Bang bang. Bang bang. The vigorous and powerful heartbeat was like a big drum, beating louder and louder. The body is almost transparent, the flesh and blood are clear, and the internal organs and bones can almost be seen. The pores all over his body were bleeding, and his whole body was a bright red. The fire was burning and tingling, and the fresh liquid was evaporated, and the smell of blood was tangy. "Master, are you sure nothing will happen?" Such a terrifying scene was completely different from the appearance of Gao Zhou and the eldest princess. Master Song was very worried that something might have gone wrong. Hard to say. Shui Gui was actually not sure. Su Tong ate more than half of the big pot of pork, and Su Tong drank almost 3/4 of the 2 jars of wine. Coupled with the tolerance of this kid's long body, all the effects of the medicine have been backlogged until now, and he doesn't know what the result will be. But Shui Gui believes in one sentence: wealth can be found in danger. The more dangerous it is, the more opportunities it brings. It may be possible for this kid to take a further step in his physical body. Crack. Suddenly, the master and others heard the sound of broken bones again. Looking through the flames, they saw the dragon scales on Su Tong's body began to explode, and his skin and flesh began to be burned into black carbon in the flames. If it weren't for the pounding sound of Su Tong's strong and powerful heart, which proved that Su Tong was still alive, I would have been worried that Su Tong had been burned to death by the flames. This is a true transformation. Mr. May pinched his beard and watched quietly. This kind of rebirth was a desperate act, burning away the remains of his body and regenerating new flesh and blood. Fortunately, this kid's heart was so powerful that it continuously produced new blood for him. Injecting life into it, if it were Gao Zhou, even the ashes would have been burnt away. Of course, Gao Zhou's physical body could not hold up to 3 glasses of wine, let alone someone like Su Tong who drank 2 jars of wine. The flames grew stronger and stronger, until the charcoal residue on Su Tong's body was burned open, revealing brand new skin and flesh. Only delicate scales could be seen emerging from the new flesh and blood, as thin as cicada wings, white and clear, like magnificent jade. With a delicate texture, and then the internal organs vibrated, the joints creaked, and everything was reborn. I have never seen such a terrifying transformation. It is truly worthy of the name. The transformation is so complete that even the bones are being reborn. He seemed to be reborn from the ashes. Every bone, every inch of flesh and blood, including hair, were being replaced. Rumble, rumble. At the same time, on Qingcheng Mountain, a group of Taoist priests who had just returned to their rooms to rest were startled by the bursts of thunder outside before their buttocks were warm. They all walked out of the room to take a look. He was suddenly startled. It's not even bright yet, but there are already dark clouds outside, and dull thunder echoes across the sky and earth. Thunder! Taoist Lingxiu and others stuck their heads out of the window. They were stunned for a moment when they saw this, but then their expressions gradually became serious. No, it's a thunder disaster. Thunder tribulation. When they heard that Master Huigo and Taoist Master Jingyun turned around, they jumped down from the bed, stuck their heads out of the window and stared with wide eyes. Thunder tribulation is very rare now. It is said that if one reaches the level of Jean Dao, there will be a minor thunder disaster. If you can survive, you will be an earthly immortal. If you cannot survive, you will be a scumbag. The three Taoists, Taishan Baidu, had only seen it in books, but had never seen the real thunder tribulation, so when they heard Taoist Lingxiu say this, they immediately became energetic. I poked my head out and took a look, and sure enough I saw thunder clouds. There seemed to be a thunder in the sea of clouds that was continuously absorbing the thunder elements between the sky and the earth and beginning to accumulate power. Could it be that someone is killing the Tao? Master Huigo couldn't help but think of Zhang Haisheng. After all, his cultivation on Qingcheng Mountain was the closest to the Tao killing. But Taoist Lingxiu said bluntly, it's impossible. Enlightenment may still depend on chance, but cutting off the path cannot. Everyone has a different way of cultivating Dao cutting, and the way of Dao cutting is also different. This is true even for fellow disciples. No matter how evil the monster is at this level, it is extremely difficult to break through. Even if one looks through history, there are only 8 Tao slayers recorded in Longhu Mountain from ancient times to the present. Each of these 8 people has very different ways of killing Tao. There are people who have lost all their cultivation, traveled around the world, and traveled all the way east. Finally, they have realized the great Dao and succeeded in killing it. Some people climbed to the top of Mount Tai to watch the sunrise and sunset. They did not move for 3 years without a drop of water, and then suddenly sublimated in the sunrise. What's even more bizarre is that there was an ancestor who went down the mountain, married 5 wives, gave birth to 3 children, and finally died. But no matter which method of cutting the path, it takes a lot of time to prepare. It's not something that can be accomplished overnight. If it's not Dao killing, why is there a thunder tribulation? Taoist Yunjing asked rhetorically. This. Taoist Lingxiu scratched his head. This really touched on the blind spot of his own knowledge. Hey, it doesn't matter if I don't know. My senior brother must know. Taoist Lingxiu said as he took out his mobile phone and was about to make a call when he suddenly remembered that he was still on the mountain and there were thunder clouds outside, so it was better not to make a call. So I sent a text message instead. I believe that by this time, the senior brother had already gotten up and started chanting. Taoist Lingxiu was afraid that his senior brother would not see the text messages, so he pasted and copied them and sent more than 10 messages in one go. After a while, he saw the phone vibrate slightly. Coming. Taoist Lingxiu clicked on the text message and saw that his senior brother replied with a short text message, thunder disaster from the sky, either killing the Tao, or turning into a demon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 724. The thunderclouds accumulated for a long time and finally broke through the sky, like the Milky Way pouring down from the sky, shattering everything. It was so blazing that the sky and the earth were suddenly illuminated for a moment of daylight. Boom! The sound of thunder almost penetrates people's eardrums and crushes people's souls. It connects heaven and earth and is extremely vast. The lightning struck down, penetrating between reality and reality, locking onto Su Tong and striking down. This sudden thunder caught everyone off guard. No one expected that Su Tong's physical transformation would be so amazing that it would even lead to a catastrophe. Su Tong was submerged in the thunder and lightning. In an instant, his skin and flesh were torn apart, his body was charred black, blood spattered around him, and he let out a miserable scream. Hold on! The master and others stood aside and watched, cheering for Su Tong. If you want to sing all the way, you must endure pain that is unbearable for ordinary people. This is a great opportunity and a great challenge. Whether a carp turns into a dragon and jumps over the dragon's gate, or it just fails, it all depends on whether Su Tong can hold on this time. The new skin and flesh were torn apart under the light of lightning, and the pain was no less than being cut into pieces with 1,000 knives. Moreover, the lightning did not scatter when it hit the ground. Instead, it was like a powerful electric current surrounding Su Tong's body, making a crackling sound. Huh? Isn't there just one? Why haven't the thunderclouds dispersed yet? Shuigui realized something was wrong at this time. Even if he was able to cut off the Tao, it would only be a catastrophe. Su Tong had not even become a Taoist, so how could he still survive? That is. Only Mr. May's eyes widened as he looked at Su Tong, who was staring into the lightning. When he saw him actually raising his hands and making handprints, he suddenly understood what this kid was going to do, and his teeth trembled. Are you crazy? Stop it quickly, you are looking for death. After hearing what Mr. May said, Mr. Shuigui and Mr. Song raised their heads and looked at Mr. May. He wants to catch God. Mr. May was also frightened by this boy's actions. I saw Su Tong holding the exploration seal with his hand, activating his Yanshu, and his powerful spiritual will, forming a large net to capture the veins left by the catastrophe. Hearing Mr. May's words, Master and the others were also startled. The so-called heavenly tribulation is a test from God to practitioners. Su Tong has the audacity to try to capture the context of heaven and earth at this time. This is a provocation. It's like a kind old father pulled out the 7 wolves on you. He originally wanted to scare you, but instead of admitting your mistake, you asked, "Did you not eat?" Good guy, if I don't beat you, you won't be able to get out of bed for 3 days. I'm really sorry for the 7 wolves in his hands. The eldest princess and Gao Zhou were both awakened by such a big movement and were shocked when they saw it. You brat, you're crazy, stop it. Master Song Lao shouted hurriedly, signaling Su Tong to stop quickly. But at this moment, Su Tong could no longer hear other people's voices. The Yanshu was activated, and when he looked up, he saw a strange line remaining between the sky and the earth. This texture is ferocious, like a multi-clawed dragon. Grasp! Su Tong's thoughts turned into a big net, trying to capture this thread by force. Do you want to leave after beating me? Where in the world can there be such a good thing? The handprints kept changing, and the strange texture kept changing for a while, trying to break free from this net. It is indeed the texture and veins left by the heavenly tribulation. Compared with the water pattern, the intensity has increased by an unknown amount. It can still resist, but the more it resists, the more excited it becomes. I saw 3 Dao fruits appearing behind Su Tong. In addition to the water Tao fruit and the Buddha fruit, there is also a Tao fruit, which is gray and slightly larger than the other 2 Tao fruits. This Taoist fruit is the fruit of Yanxia refined by Mei Xian using rhizomes as talismans and Qingcheng mountain as carrier. At this moment, the Dao fruit appeared, Su Tong's mind moved, and he used the Yan technique he had learned from the third Dao fruit, Tai Shang furnace. The supreme furnace refines all things and turns them into talismans. The moment Su Tong's thought arose, the large net formed by his mental power turned into a furnace, in order to completely refine the veins formed by this ray of thunder into a talisman. Rumble, rumble. This move was tantamount to the heavenly seizing technique. Thunder and lightning flashed in the sky, and a bolt of lightning broke through the air and fell, hitting Su Tong directly. Xian Yuan shield, diamond seal. At this moment, Su Tong's consciousness has woken up from the state just now, and naturally he will not be beaten passively. His whole body blooms with green light, and his body appears as a Vajra. Boom. Even so, this lightning strike still caused Su Tong to split the meat sauce, and smoke was rising all over his body. Boss, please take it easy. When Gao Zhou saw this, he was also worried about Su Tong. Not only did Su Tong no longer cry out in pain, but the look in his eyes became even crazier. Ha ha ha, here's another one, let's get it together. It turned out that Su Tong discovered that after the thunder, another vein remained between heaven and earth. He immediately formed a seal with his fingers and quickly dragged it into the furnace. But doing so will inevitably deplete his mental energy very quickly. After all, he has not become enlightened after all. If his spiritual power is consumed too much, he will inevitably fall into a coma. But Su Tong is not afraid. He was seriously injured, but the more serious the injury, the stronger his mind became and the faster he recovered. There was a prop card Divine Control in his prop book. The holder's mental strength increases by 10%. Passive skill 1, Painful Sacrifice. The stronger the physical pain of the holder, the faster the mental loss will be replenished. You brat, you're crazy. Seeing Su Tong constantly causing disasters, Master Song Lao stamped his feet anxiously, but everyone was helpless and did not dare to rush to help. If they do that, not only will they not be able to save Su Tong, but they will also have to endure the thunder tribulation of heaven. The lightning flashed, and Su Tong's body, which was as powerful as Su Tong, was also in dilapidated condition. It was almost penetrated, and many wounds exposed the bones, dripping with blood, which made people tremble with fear. But the more serious the injury, the stronger Su Tong's spirit becomes. With the control bonus of Puppet Master, Star Eye Tribulation, and Divine Control, his control over Yan Shu is beyond ordinary people's understanding. Boom! 2 thunderbolts struck down in succession. Su Tong suddenly stood up, his legs rooted to the ground, and rejuvenation of all things was activated. Brilliant golden light appeared all over his body, and a Vajra Dharma with an angry look appeared behind him, and he raised his arms brazenly to resist the thunder. If a person dies and a bird looks up to the sky, he will not die for tens of thousands of years. Su Tong's body was constantly struck by thunder, and his charred flesh quickly scabbed and fell off. Not only did he have to capture the veins of the thunder, but he also needed to use the thunder to temper his body. Either be reduced to ashes in a lightning strike, or sing along and truly control your own destiny. He was so radical precisely because he felt the pressure Zhang Haisheng brought to him. This time, Zhang Haisheng was afraid and took the initiative to retreat. What about next time? I still have to climb Qingcheng Mountain and participate in the Lucian days. Will I still have to rely on the eldest princess and the others to help me when the time comes? No, it's a matter of dignity. Su Tong doesn't want to end up with the problem of eating soft food. After all, he is still young and has a very good appetite. Soft food is not to his liking. Bang bang bang. At the same time, he dares to have such confidence, not entirely because of his recklessness, but because of the beating heart in his chest. Every time it beats, it brings vigorous vitality and devilish energy to himself, and these devilish energies are crazily injected into him. Body, repairing one's own flesh and blood, endlessly. It was indeed the heart of the daughter of Satan. Su Tong felt the rapidly beating heart in his chest. For some reason, he suddenly couldn't help but think of Lilith's fried beef river. Sure enough, if you want to capture a man's heart, you must first capture his stomach. This sentence is true. Even though I know that this woman would like to cut her body into pieces and wrap it into dumplings, every time I think about it, it makes my mouth water. This scene shocked Master and the others. It seemed that it was only at this moment that Master Shuegui's eyes showed shock and relief. The little guy who once still needed his protection has now surpassed himself, even surpassed himself too much, whether in terms of realm or strength, he has surpassed himself. The most important thing is that everything went as he expected. Su Tong did not go the way he came, but found another path by himself. This made Shuegui feel happy and felt a deep sense of pride for this good disciple. The child has finally grown into a big tree. Shuegui felt proud, refreshed and happy. At this moment, Taoist Lingxiu and the other 3 people on Qingcheng Mountain were shocked, stunned, and numb. The 3 old men had already started to argue. One after another, the thunder struck down. Is this a catastrophe? Could it be that God has come to Uncle? Why are there so many lightning strikes today? How big of a monster must he be to be so taken care of by God? Refining. As Su Tong roared, wisps of purple light were finally swallowed up by the Dao fruit and turned into a strange talisman, which Su Tong successfully absorbed into his own Dao fruit. Suddenly, a gleam of electricity appeared in Su Tong's eyes, and he had a lot of enlightenment in his heart. He opened his palm and saw a strange talisman emerging from his palm. The talisman appeared, and the lightning wrapped around Su Tong was instantly absorbed by the talisman. Then Su Tong called out the Xianyuan shield and integrated the talisman into the Xianyuan shield. For a moment, the originally green shield was covered with a layer of silver light, and 2 strange talismans occupied the left and right sides of Xianyuan shield. Combining water and electricity, hey, let's wait until the next time we see Zhang Haisheng and use him to verify the power of Xianyuan shield. Su Tong grinned and thought to himself. At this moment, there were bursts of thunder in the 9 heavens, but the thick haze was gradually dissipating, but anyone could feel that the bursts of thunder seemed to be extremely heavy. Su Tong stood there, his surroundings covered with scorch marks, and even his clothes had turned into ashes, standing naked in front of everyone. But it wasn't like he was completely naked. The new scales were like a set of ferocious armor, wrapping him tightly. Compared with before, he was really reborn at this moment. Even the scales on his body had changed from the original blue-gray to silvery white. There were still barbs on his shoulders and joints. The edges of the scales reflected a chilling cold light, which was shocking. Sharper than a sharp knife. Before he could fully comprehend the changes in his physical body, the prompts from the prop book came like a tide. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 725. Ding. Your dark Elong body has evolved, your physical fitness has been greatly improved, and your overall physical fitness has increased by 40%. Ding. You gain special power, De Wangfen. De Wangfen. Resilience increases by 200% in a blazing environment. Immune to fire damage below level 7. Fire skills add 2, and cooldown reduction is 40%. Additional skills, Vulcan. Vulcan. It consumes 800 script points. After activation, it transforms into the god of Vulcan. All flame skills are temporarily upgraded by 3 levels and the cooling time is waived. Ding. Obtain the hidden title, Tianchu. Tenchu hidden title, non-transferable, non-tradable. This title can be obtained by successfully surviving 3 or more lightning strikes. With this title, the thunder skill increases by 1 level. When the prompt ended, Su Tong carefully felt the power in his body and felt stronger than ever before. He looked at the stone table beside him, stepped forward and patted it gently, breaking the stone table into pieces with almost no force. Then he jumped up, waved his fist tentatively, and used the Buddhist Vajra hand. The stronger the skill, the higher the lethality. As Su Tong slapped it with his palm, the entire rockery in front of him was instantly shaken to the ground. Such terrifying power made everyone gasp. This is not all of Su Tong's power. If he activates the skills of the title Venerable, Kshitigarbha Sutra, is blessed by the power of the Buddhist dragon elephant, plus the chapter of killing, but in terms of strength, Su Tong feels that it can be regarded as enlightenment. Heavenly beings may not be able to hold their own fists. My dear, you are so perverted. Gao Zhou's scalp felt numb when he saw this, and he couldn't help but think in his heart. He was obviously a zombie, but why did he feel that in front of Su Tong, he looked more like an ordinary person? This power is so terrifying. Then, at this time, the master finally took out the treasure from the bottom of the box, tossed it to Su Tong. Su Tong reached out and took it and saw that it was a longbow. The body of the longbow was jet black but glowed with a ray of red light. It was unknown what material it was made of, but Su Tong's first feeling when he held it was that it felt a little heavy. I tried throwing it into the prop book and took a look, and my eyes lit up. Big rhinoceros bow. In the Styx River, there is a beast, shaped like a buffalo, with 6 horns. It often hides in the yellow springs of the Styx River and swallows the wandering souls walking on the shore. The horns of the beast are used as bows and the tendons are used as strings. It is called the Great Rhinoceros Bow, which can break mountains and open seas. Power. Passive Skill 1, Transformation. The special attributes of the user's strength will be absorbed and converted into arrows, or special attributes will be added to the arrows. Passive Skill 2, Traceless. If the target is hit by this bow, the cause and effect will be resolved and no trace will be left. Active Skill, Mark of the Dead God. Spend 300 script points to mark creatures within a 300-meter diameter range. While the mark lasts, the arrows can automatically lock onto the target. Duration, 30 minutes. Cooling time, 24 hours. Note, I am not guilty of shooting you. Looking at the entry given on the prop card, Su Tong couldn't help but his eyes lit up. The appearance of this bow just made up for his long-distance attack gap. Although there is only one active skill, automatically locking these 4 words looks like cheating. Moreover, there seems to be no limit to the number of people who can be marked. In other words, in theory, if you can shoot arrows fast enough, you can kill a small army all by yourself. Try to see how much you can pull. The master could not help but urge. Su Tong nodded and tried to pull the bowstring. The bowstring suddenly made a dull and deafening buzzing sound between Su Tong's fingers, and was pulled directly to the full moon by Su Tong. At this time, Su Tong felt that part of his power seemed to be absorbed by the long bow, and an arrow burning with white flames appeared out of thin air on Su Tong's bowstring. Su Tong tried to inject his own demonic flame into it, and suddenly the arrow was gradually ignited by the dark blue demonic flame. Then he aimed his arrow at the mountain in the distance and tried to shoot it out. Boom! The moment he let go of the bowstring, the arrow with a burst of thunder ripped through the air a stream of dark blue light, and the next second, a scream was heard in the distance. I saw that the top of the mountain was still fine, but the mountain ghost was slumped on the ground, and the arrow hit his scalp and flew out. Although he was not injured, a few hairs on his head were burned dry. Arjang. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but look askance at Su Tong. Sorry, it's my first time playing this game, so I didn't get the angle right. Su Tong was embarrassed for a while. He wanted to pretend to be next door, but almost sent Chan Gui, an honest man, away. While I was apologizing, I secretly decided that when I enter the exhibition tonight, I must buy 2 arrow skills. Thank you, master. Su Tong put away his bow and arrows and thanked his master with a pleased expression on his face. Okay, you've had your fill of wine and food. You've got your things, so don't stay here and go do whatever you need to do. The master nodded, feeling like he was letting you fly like a bird. Su Tong also knew that the master was probably exhausted. When he saw that his master, Mr. Song, was already looking for scriptures, he immediately handed over to his master, and Mr. Mei, and hurriedly pulled Gao Zhou away. Only after Su Tong left did Mr. Song walk up to Mr. Shuigui and bring him a cup of tea. Master, those 3 arrows. Just wait and see, if something goes wrong, if this arrow hits me, I will bear the blame. Shuigui waved his hand and said. Although Ghost Emperor Du Ziren has erased all his traces. But as the old Taoists said, there are too many ancient gods hidden in the underworld. If someone really catches their tail, with these 3 arrows in hand, the cause and effect will be all on themselves, and this kid will not be harmed. Of course, this situation is extremely unlikely. No matter how many ancient gods there are in the underworld, Du Ziren, as a ghost emperor, is not joking. Anyway, let's take a look. If there are no problems, it won't be too late to hand it over to him when the time comes. After Su Tong and Gao Zhou came out of the gap between reality and reality, it was already dawn outside. When I looked up, I saw that the plum tree behind me was completely withered and lifeless. Even the entire Miai's Huang suddenly became lifeless, no longer as smart and restrained as before. Gao Zhou actually wanted to set fire to Zhuangzi, but setting fire to the mountain was not a good idea. It would be bad if someone was hurt, so Gao Zhou simply removed the plaque of Miai's Huang and took it away. Although this plaque is ordinary, it can be regarded as recording a piece of history. After taking it off, go home and hang it on the bedside. The two walked down the mountain road and found that many plants were withering along the way. This is not surprising. The rhizomes of Meixian spread throughout Qingcheng Mountain, like underground pipes, continuously transporting nutrients to every corner of Qingcheng Mountain. These trees can be so tall, mostly because of the care of Meixian. Now that the plum fairy is gone, they have lost their nutrition, and many trees will immediately suffer from nutritional deficiencies. It may not be noticeable for a short time, but it will not be long before problems arise. Brother Su. When they reached the bottom of the mountain, they saw Meidu driving a car and waving to them. After Su Tong and Gao Zhou got into the car, Meidu took them down the mountain and straight to their hometown. When passing by Shi Mei's crematorium on the way, Su Tong found that the crematorium had been repaired and was open for normal business. The car arrived at the Mei family's mansion. Before getting out of the car, Su Tong found that Mr. Mei and his descendants were already waiting for him at the door. Su Tong was really not used to such a big battle, and he didn't understand what the old man was doing. After getting off the car, Mr. Mei immediately greeted him warmly. I was in a hurry last time in Miai's Huang, and there are still some things I didn't explain clearly to you. Old man, Meidu, and I are good brothers. Just call me Xiao Su. Don't be so polite. Hearing this, the old man of the Mei family stopped being polite. He pulled Su Tong into the door and said as he walked, I have expected this day. The Mei family has great blessings. Today, they are already rich and prosperous, and they are content. The Mei family has been passed down for 8 generations. Although they have never done any great undertakings, no matter whether it is war or famine, the descendants of the family can survive safely, and at the worst, they can maintain a good harvest despite droughts and floods. It seems ordinary, but looking back, it is not difficult to find that there are many kinds of religions, and it is hard to find another family that can achieve the results like the Mei family. Nowadays, the Mei family has followed the trend of the times, completely transformed, and cut off the practice of cultivation. This blessing will slowly turn into trouble over time. This is exactly the reason why Mr. May asked May-do to practice. After all, although the family has cut off the practice, there are still too many things that cannot be truly cut off. If there is no cultivator to control it, there is no guarantee that it will attract bad luck. Now that Su Tong has inherited the May family's inheritance, this has indirectly helped their May family. While talking, the old man led Su Tong and Gao Zhou to the main hall. The incense table on the table was ready, with a portrait of the plum blossom Taoist hanging on it. This is the second time Su Tong has seen the portrait of Taoist Mai Hua. Compared with the last time, his strength has undergone a qualitative transformation. Looking at the portrait again, this time he actually saw the true face of Taoist Mai Hua in the portrait. In the portrait, the plum blossom Taoist priest is sitting under the plum tree, his figure is erratic, and he is nodding towards Su Tong. Scare. Even Su Tong was shocked by this painting. The plum blossom Taoist in the painting is not sure whether he has truly become an immortal. Could it be that the figure in this painting is entrusting his soul? While Su Tong was thinking wildly, Gao Zhou had already handed over the incense candle. Su Tong took the incense candle, stood side by side with the old man of the May family, and knelt down to worship together. Only after the incense was burned, Mr. May took out a wooden box from the incense table and handed it to Su Tong. This is something our May family keeps, and it is also the most important thing in the May family. I heard from May-do that you have a printing in your hand Ming Chao's template, then this thing is indispensable to assist. When Su Tong heard this, he opened the box. There were 2 brick-like red stones and a black seal in the box. Su Tong picked up the seal, breathed a sigh of relief, and covered it in the palm of his hand. He saw 7 characters printed in seal script on it. Seal of the Emperor of Taishan Prefecture. The next update may be a little later. I have an unknown condition, hives broke out, and large red wheals all over my body. I need to go to the clinic to get some medicine. I may not update until tonight. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 726. This printing of ghost money is not done with blank paper. You can just start the printing press and print whatever you want. In addition to money molds, yinda and dies are also needed. Dies are these brick-like things. After they are crushed and dissolved in water, they can be applied to the money mold. As for yin virtue, the same thing applies to merit substitution. The most important thing is the need for this seal. This seal means that you are officially recognized by Yin Cao. If you don't get this seal, I'm sorry, but you just have private money. Although private banknotes can also be used, some ghosts and gods will turn a blind eye, but private banknotes are private banknotes, and there is no official recognition. Once discovered, this crime may be used to take action against you. As for the paper stamp, this thing is the easiest thing to do. The May family has this kind of paper stamp on hand now. If Su Tong needs it, Mr. May can have it delivered immediately. The old man is really timely. This thing is exactly what I need. Su Tong thanked Mr. May again. Mr. May waved his hand. You and the May family have a close relationship. We are all a family, so there is no need to be so polite. After saying that, Mr. May changed his tone. It's just that Luo Tianda, I think it's better not to go. It's not that I don't believe in your strength. It's just that the water in Qingcheng Mountain is very deep. Apart from what you can see on the surface, there are things you can see, and there are things you can't see. Mr. May has grown up on Qingcheng Mountain since he was a child. He knows many secrets that ordinary people don't know. He knows that Qingcheng Mountain is called Tianji Cave, but it is by no means as simple as just saying it. Su Tong has shaken the foundation of Qingcheng Mountain this time. The two sides are already feuding with each other to the death. Going to Qingcheng Mountain rashly will only lead to great dangers. If Su Tong does not go up the mountain, with the connections of the May family, Ching Cheng Mountain will not dare to trouble Su Tong rashly even if there is a heavenly being in charge. After Mr. May finished speaking, he saw that Su Tong kept his head down. Seeing this, Mr. May didn't rush him, he just waited quietly for the answer. Grandfather. When May Du and others saw this, they couldn't help but worry whether these words would offend Su Tong. After all, loyal words are hard to hear. Mr. May's words were spoken very tactfully, and I don't know if the plum blossomer really heard them. At this moment, Su Tong suddenly raised his head, with a sunny smile on his face, as if he was not dissatisfied at all because of the old man's advice, but was sincerely happy for the old man's advice. Old man, thank you for your advice, but... Su Tong suppressed his smile and raised his head to look in the direction of Ching Cheng Mountain. I'm a very stubborn person. Zhang Haisheng owes me, and I must let him get it back. Night. The May family prepared a sumptuous dinner. After the dinner, Su Tong and Gao Zhou did not return to the guest room prepared by the May family to rest. Instead, they found an excuse and took a ride to the city. Originally, May Du wanted to come with him, but Su Tong said he needed to see an old friend, and based on the principle of being a guest, he refused, which made May Du sad for a while. The two of them took a car to the city. After Su Tong bought 2 cups of milk tea at the corner, he saw Gao Zhou still buying a set of good gold jewelry from the jewelry store. As for such a low price? Aren't you afraid that your wife Fengxia will be jealous? Of course, if there was no young lady in the script world last time, how could my certification task go so smoothly? As for my wife, I will give her something better then. Speaking of his wife Fengxia, Gao Zhou couldn't help but miss her a little. In fact, it didn't really take long to come out, but if you add the time in the script world, Gao Zhou really missed his wife. He took out his mobile phone and looked at his wife's photo affectionately. For a moment. Vomit. After Su Tong used the convenient passage, the two of them saw the neon lights emerging in the corridor behind them. When they opened the door, they saw May, the young lady at the front desk, waiting for them. I thought you would have to wait a few days to come, but I didn't expect you couldn't wait so soon. May looked Su Tong up and down as she spoke, and her eyes lit up. Your progress is much faster than I thought. Hey, it's not sister's help. Su Tong smiled and put the milk tea on the table, along with the silver team building badge. Silver level. May picked up the badge and said, this is a good thing. Are you sure you want to build a team? Sure. Su Tong nodded heavily. The purpose of his visit this time was to build a team, a certified team. He had been coveting the function of chatting in a separate channel for a long time. Then fill out a form. You only have one chance, but you have to read it clearly. May nodded and took out a form and handed it to Su Tong. Her slender fingers inadvertently pointed at the inconspicuous option on the far left of the form. Seeing this, Su Tong looked at the form. The content on the form is very simple. Just fill in the name of the team leader on the top. Below is the selection of team functions. They are functional area and skill area respectively. Among these functions, in addition to the team channel function that I have longed for, there are also various team skills. For example, the team skill Steel Torrent can make the defense of all team members equal to that of the team leader. In other words, as long as the leader is tough enough, the entire team's defense will become as terrifying as him. When Su Tong saw this skill, he almost subconsciously made a choice. But when I took a closer look, I discovered that there was a line of small words below this skill. After a closer look, I discovered that this was an active skill, with a duration of only a pitiful 7 seconds. Moreover, the cooldown time was super long, so I decisively gave up on this skill. There is also Scorching Spirit power that can cause team members' attacks to have a burning effect. After Su Tong looked carefully, he found that this team skill seemed to be very suitable for a team of summoning players, because this skill could be shared with summoned objects. At this time, Su Tong noticed the note on the side. Bronze level certified teams can only choose one function and cannot choose team skills. Black Iron level certified teams can choose two functions and choose one skill from a limited number of skills as a team skill. As a Silver level certified team, they don't have these restrictions and can choose from 3 team features, as well as one of many team skills. At this time, Su Tong's eyes gradually focused on the direction that Ame had inadvertently pointed to. That was the team skill selection area, but it was marked with the word random. Su Tong took a closer look and saw a note on the side, there is a probability of obtaining a higher level team skill. Su Tong raised his head and looked at Ame, only to see her squinting at the shelves aside. Following Ame's gaze, he saw a crystal bottle on the shelf. Su Tong took a look and saw that this bottle was the lucky potion he had drunk before. Lucky potion. After taking it, the luck of the eater can be doubled. In an instant, Su Tong and Ame looked at each other, and they already understood each other. Su Tong quickly chose random for the team skill, and at the same time, for the other 3 team functions, he chose the team channel, team shared warehouse, and team task sharing, 3 basic functions. After filling out the form, Su Tong did not give it to Ame immediately. Instead, he took out 3,000 script points and purchased the bottle of lucky potion. You have filled out the form, please review it again. Once the team is established, you cannot make changes. Although it was already tacitly understood, Ame still confirmed it again according to the process. Su Tong introduced the lucky potion into his mouth with one hand, and at the same time, a wisp of white smoke slowly rose above Su Tong's head. The white smoke billowed and transformed into a round little fat man. The little fat man was round and looked very cute. This little fat man is the skill of Su Tong's title Blessing of the Immortal of Fortune, the Dice of Destiny. It consumes 30 script points. After activation, you can summon a destiny dice. After you throw the dice, you will get fairies to sublimate your life according to the number you throw. Duration, 30 minutes. Cooling time, 8 hours. The little fat man waved his hand and the dice began to spin in the air. Ta-da-da. Ta-da. Ta. Su Tong silently prayed in his heart if 6 o'clock could happen again. He watched the dice getting slower and slower, and finally settled on 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock. Su Tong was inevitably a little disappointed. After all, after experiencing the joy of 6 o'clock, it would be very uncomfortable to come back to 4 o'clock. However, 4 points is actually not a small number. I saw the little fat man bragging about Su Tong's luck. After receiving the blessing of the lucky potion, his luck improved rapidly again. Soon, Su Tong's luck gradually contained 3 shining stars, shining brightly above his head. Good luck. This can be regarded as relatively good luck, but it is still a long way from Sanyang Kai Tai. At this time, Ame picked up the silver team building order and hit it hard on the blank space in the lower left corner of the form. The silver team building order was immediately integrated into the form. Ding! Congratulations on establishing a silver level certified team, please name your team. The prompt sounded in Su Tong's ears. Unexpectedly, the first thing he did was to give his team a name. He held his chin with his fingers and thought for a moment. Suddenly he remembered something and quickly gave his team a new name. After Su Tong's selection was confirmed, the system's prompt sounded. Congratulations on establishing a silver level certified team 7 doors. Ding, the 7 branches of the silver team have been established. You will randomly obtain a team skill. The skill is being drawn. Ding, the extraction is successful, congratulations on getting the team skill Bleeding Rose. Team skill, Bloody Rose, LV1. After a team member is harmed, the effect of this skill will be triggered and a layer of rose mark will be obtained. When the rose mark reaches 10 layers, it can be released to cause damage to the attacker. The rebound damage is 3% of the damage received x the number of rose layers. Target range, 20 meters. Mark existence time, 3 minutes, no damage will be taken after 3 minutes, and the layers will be cancelled. Note, the more layers there are, the stronger the rebound damage will be. The maximum limit is 100 layers. Congratulations, this is a rare skill that only golden teams have. Ame looked at the team skill names that appeared on the form and congratulated Su Tong with a smile. After Su Tong carefully examined this skill, he found that this skill was indeed very powerful and could theoretically reflect up to 300% of the damage. What's even more frightening is that this is a team skill, and each member can be superimposed. If each member is superimposed to 100 levels, they can counter-injure a target at the same time. Su Tong found this scene exciting when he thought about it. It is not easy to meet such conditions. Each member must be in a state of constant damage, and the layers must be continuously stacked. But what if it is paired with another item card guardian in your hand? Thinking of this, Su Tong already had a bold idea in his mind. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 727. After the team was successfully established, Su Tong and Gao Zhou thanked Ame and quickly went straight to the exhibition area, hoping to earn as many script points as possible while their luck was still at its peak. Welcome to the advanced exhibition area, the elf number 404 is at your service. You can call me by my number or give me a new name. Entering the high-end exhibition area, a furry elf appeared next to Su Tong, and one also appeared next to Gao Zhou. It's just that his own is gold, and Gao Zhou's is black. Is this the high-end exhibition area? While Gao Zhou was teasing the elf in front of him, he looked around from time to time. Compared with the ordinary exhibition area, the high-end exhibition area was obviously larger and more exquisite. The difference is like a street hair salon and a high-end club. Although they are both a kind of service, the welcome and service of the latter are undoubtedly more comfortable. Of course, the price will be more painful than the former. The two of them had already contacted Gu Zibai before entering the exhibition. Gu Zibai had some matters to deal with at home and needed to wait for a while. So the two of them need to stay at the exhibition for a while. Su Tong took a look at his luck, calculated the time in his mind, and planned to cash out his luck as soon as possible. So after discussing with Gao Zhou, the two of them split into two groups. Gao Zhou went to the trading area to exchange prop cards, while Su Tong went to the casino. When Su Tong hurried to the entrance of the casino, he did not go in directly. Instead, he squinted at the door and watched for a while. Sure enough, I found a wretched figure in the corner. Senior Kong, this way. Su Tong waved to the other party, which made Blind Kong, who was hiding in the corner, startled. He looked at Su Tong with suspicious eyes for a moment before he said suspiciously, "The boy from Kimen." Su Tong nodded. "Last time we said goodbye at the soup house, but we haven't seen each other for a while." After hearing this, Blind Man Kong had basically determined the identity of the boy in front of him. He was the brat from Kimen last time. Not only did his face look happy, but his grey-white eyes looked up and down Su Tong's body, and he couldn't help but said in surprise, "At the peak of Taoism, how come you are progressing so fast?" The last time I saw Su Tong, this little guy had just become a Grand Master. It had only been a short time now, and when we met again, he was already at the peak of Taoism. Even with the blessing of the player's identity, this speed still surprised Kong Xiaozi. It was just a fluke. Su Tong waved his hand. "Stop chatting, let's go in. The old rule is, one person takes half. Although my luck at the moment is not as bad as last time, my good fortune is enough to kill everyone in the casino. Or a book of gambling props." Blind Man Kong glanced at Su Tong. "No, I'm short of money recently, So let's bet on the script. He still has nearly 60,000 script points on hand, which can be regarded as a windfall, but this is still far from the script points he needs, so he has only one purpose for coming today, and that is script points. Well, let's gamble. Today is the star of the year. It's a good day for gambling. Let's go. This time, Blind Mankong did not take out the prop card gathering dragon pillar from last time. Instead, he took out a strange black basin and held it in his hand. We gambled too hard last time, so the casino invited experts to rearrange the feng shui. After that, Blind Mankong put his hand into the black basin, took out a handful of grass ash and put it on his hand. He then put 3 dots on his forehead and turned to Su Tong to do the same. Then he pointed at the door behind him. The last white tiger of Qinglong Town was destroyed by me with the dragon gathering pillar. Now the trick in front of the door is Tengu eclipsing the moon. You look down. Blind Mankong pulled Su Tong to squat down and saw a large round lamp hidden in front of the door. It was just because of the angle that it couldn't be seen from a distance. The round lantern represents the moon, the front teeth represent the mouth, and the Tengu eats the moon, specializing in devouring people's luck. Look at the decorations of 2 little blacksmiths hanging on both sides of the door. They look honest and cute, but iron is gold, and making iron is like making money. The wealth in your body will be scattered as soon as you enter the door. So Blind Mankong smeared special grass ash on the heads of the 2 of them. Firstly, it would cover 3 inches of your aura so that the Tengu could not see you. Secondly, the grass ash belongs to the earth, so it can hide the wealth in your body. Follow my lead. As Blind Mankong said, he took Su Tong to the casino gate. The pace of the 2 people was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, which attracted many people's attention. Some people even saw this and simply followed behind to imitate. Su Tong opened his life eyes and took a look at Kimin. Sure enough, he saw a huge dog's head lying in front of the door. There was a bright light in front of the dog's head. When the light shone, the luck of the person was sucked into the light, and then was sucked into it. The dog's head was swallowed into his mouth. Sure enough, it was Tengu eclipsing the moon. When the 2 of them walked to the door, the light shone on them. Because the grass ash was smeared on their heads, their luck was not sucked away. Just a few people following them who followed the same pattern could not escape having some of their luck sucked away, but Su Tong noticed that the luck sucked away was much less than that of others. Passing through the front hall, you can see that the dozen or so large gaming tables in the casino are already bustling with activity. There is a hook-shaped lantern standing on the gambling table, which looks like a fishing net. Su Tong remembers that Kong Xiaozi said before that this thing is called the Tianluo umbrella in Feng Shui, which means that the gamblers are trapped in the evil spirit. Collect all the gamblers' money. Last time I had 3 yangs, I was not afraid of this thing, but today I couldn't. However, Blind Mankong had another way. He took out a ruler from the prop book and handed it to Su Tong. Su Tongming looked around and found that the luck of all the gamblers at the card table was covered by this big net. The longer the time went on, the more hooks there were on them. Wind and Cloud Stick. Active Skill 1, Stirring Up the Storm. Spend 30 script points to disrupt your own aura and avoid your own luck. Duration, 10 minutes. Cooling time, 2 hours. As the saying goes, hooks are afraid of nets, and nets are afraid of sticks. You use this thing, sit in the southeast corner, and keep the wealth. But you have to be quick. Let's make a quick decision. He didn't know whether Blind Mankong had obtained these strange things from above. Su Tong nodded and did not dare to waste time. 10 minutes was enough for him. After activating the skill on Wind and Cloud Stick, he strode to the gambling table. This gambling table is about betting big or small. It was quite simple. Su Tong glanced at it and saw that all the 20,000 script points in his hand were directly placed on Xiao Shang. 20,000 script points are not uncommon at the gambling table. Some gamblers have lost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of script points in one night. The croupier didn't pay attention. He just thought it was another gambler who was jealous of gambling. After shaking the dice a few times, he put down the dice cup. Buy and leave, 1, 3, 2, 6 o'clock. It's so cool. For a while, some people sighed and some yelled. Su Tong's 20,000 script points instantly doubled and became 40,000 script points. Seeing this, Su Tong continued to suppress the child. This time, all 40,000 script points were put on it. Quack, quack, quack. The dice in the dice cup clanked, and people at the gambling table began to continue placing bets. Buy and leave, 2, 2, 4, 8 o'clock. The dice cup was opened and the dealer shouted the slogan. Su Tong's 40,000 script instantly doubled again, from 20,000 to 80,000. The script points came so quickly, which made people feel like they were on top, as if the script points were like a pile of waste paper data. The feeling of constantly doubling was simply not very satisfying. One more, it's 160,000 script points. Su Tong almost didn't think much, and he just put all the 80,000 script points on the gambling table. But just when his hand was almost stretched out, he suddenly felt something in his heart, and he suddenly raised his head and glanced sideways behind him. I saw that my luck had begun to hit rock bottom without knowing when. Scare. Seeing this, Su Tong's heart skipped a beat and he quickly took his hand back, but at this moment, Blind Mankang standing behind him suddenly said, "Keep going, hurry up." Su Tong glanced at Blind Mankang suspiciously. He couldn't believe that Blind Mankang couldn't see his current state. "Trust me," Blind Kong urged in an urgent voice. Hearing Blind Mankang's urging, Su Tong took a deep breath and without any further thought, he threw all the 80,000 script points into the gambling table with his backhand. The score of 80,000 points in the script immediately made the croupier's eyelids twitch slightly, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but raise. Many people were also frightened by such a big bargaining chip. There are still some people who are not afraid of death. With 80,000 script points, they continue to keep their numbers down. But thinking that Su Tong had just won twice in a row, many people simply followed Su Tong and placed bets. Soon Jin Chili's script score had reached a very exaggerated figure. However, as soon as the croupier opened the dice cup in his hand, everyone's eyes suddenly widened. Buy and leave, 4, 6, 6, big. After the dealer read out the numbers inside, many people who followed Su Tong to place bets immediately started to curse. "Sir, good luck doesn't come all the time." The croupier smiled. In fact, gambling in casinos is not about skills, and it is impossible to cheat. Otherwise, once discovered, the casino's brand will be destroyed. But besides gambling, luck is also closely related. At this moment, countless mechanisms under the gambling table are turning, quietly changing the direction of luck on the gambling table. But as soon as he finished speaking, his face suddenly froze, and he found that his golden pool as the banker was instantly empty. According to the rules of the gambling table, the big and small points are bets between two parties. If the losing party's total funds are not enough, they must make up for it from the banker's fund pool. There are at least 400,000 script points in the fund pool of each gambling table. Is it empty now? The croupier immediately turned his head and took a look, only to realize that someone had pressed down 600,000 script points on the table to buy big. The other party placed the bet 1 second before opening the dice cup, and everyone was so attracted by Su Tong's 80,000 script chips that they didn't even notice that the other party successfully stole the chicken. Be cheated. But when the dealer came to his senses and looked up again, he realized that he couldn't find the other party at all. Ha ha ha, happy working together. Outside the casino, Kong Xiaozi traded 150,000 script points to Su Tong. The 150,000 script points were regarded as benefits paid by blind Mankang to Su Tong. Although the two had agreed before that they would win 50% of the money, Su Tong had already lost, and lost everything. So the 50-50 thing is naturally another matter. Old guy, it turns out I am the unlucky guy you were waiting for. Su Tong couldn't help laughing when he received the script score of 150,000 yuan. Everything was co-authored by Kang Xiazi's plan, using himself as an unlucky guy to help him make a big fortune at once. Thinking of this, Su Tong couldn't help but ask, how can you be sure that the dealer won't kill all the leopards? The last one, 466, is just 2 points away from the leopard. If the dealer had better luck and a leopard appeared, both of them would lose everything. Kang Xiazi curled his lips. I'm betting that he can't get out of the leopard. There's no point in betting. Do you really think I'm here just to make money? Blind Mankang is known as the god of gamblers with 4 eyes. He has already killed all the casinos in Southeast Asia. He comes here to gamble just to satisfy his gambling instinct. It's not really about making money. At this time, Su Tong took another look at his luck and found that his luck had returned to its original state. He couldn't help but be surprised. Blind Mankang obviously noticed this and explained with squinted eyes. This situation is normal. As the saying goes, if you often walk by the river, there will be no wet shoes. This casino is not afraid of you winning, but afraid that you will not come. As long as you come, there are many twists and turns that will make you lose your pants. Remain. What Blind Mankang was referring to was Su Tong's last chance, when his luck suddenly and inexplicably fell to the bottom. There are only so many feng shui patterns that Blind Mankang can see on this gambling table, and there are some feng shui magic tricks hidden under the gambling table that Blind Mankang doesn't dare to guarantee. Therefore, Su Tong needs to stand in front to allow him to successfully steal the chicken. Fortunately, the two have a good relationship, and Blind Mankang is not the kind of person who values wealth as much as his life. He is just looking for excitement, so although Su Tong lost all his capital, he was willing to share part of it as a reward for Su Tong. After all, such a good partner is not often encountered. Boss, I found something good here, would you like to take a photo of it? At this time, Gao Zhou's voice shouted in the team channel, and a visual screenshot was also sent over. Millennium Demonic Element. It is said that it is the soul of a 1,000-year-old monster and is a necessary material for refining elixirs and making props. Starting price, 4,000 script points. 1,000-year demon essence is a good thing. Su Tong is still worried about Da Ya's injury. If he can get it, he can use it to make elixirs to heal Da Ya's injuries. Thinking of this, Su Tong motioned to Gao Zhou to take pictures as much as possible. At the same time, after declining Kang Xiazi's invitation to have dinner together, he hurriedly said goodbye and left. After Su Tong left, Blind Mankang couldn't help pinching his beard, with a bit of envy on his face, and said to himself, the blessings of Kimin are really good, but it's a pity that those old guys were so narrow-minded. By forcefully kicking out Kimin, Kimin was allowed to enjoy this blessing exclusively. That's all. Children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. If I don't have children and grandchildren, I will enjoy the blessings. Why do I think so much about it? Thinking of this, Blind Mankang raised his head and walked straight towards the no-return hot spring, thinking, I have to try the supreme hot spring today no matter what. It is said that there seems to be a little girl serving. Sorry, there is only one update today. The medicine prescribed at the clinic yesterday was too strong. I fell asleep all day after taking it. I went to bed at 11 o'clock last night and slept until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now my mind is confused and my eyelids are confused. I kept fighting and hiccuping from time to time. I didn't dare to eat any more today. I went out to get some fresh air and move around. Infinite script killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 728. By the time Su Tong arrived at Gao Zhou's side, the starting price of Millennium Demon Yuan had already reached a high price of 7,000 script points. This thing is just a material, not a prop card. 7,000 script points are already considered a sky-high price. But the price is still rising. It is precisely because this thing is a scarce material, and alchemy and weapon refining are rare treasures. Especially the word 1,000 years gives people a lot of expectations, so no one is letting go of the price. Even though the number of script points that are only bid at 100 or 200 each time is increasing, the fact that the competition has reached this point shows that the value of this thing is indeed valued by many people. The bidding is so fierce that I can hardly stand it. Gao Zhou waited until Su Tong couldn't help but started to complain, did these bastards get their script points for free? Such a piece of material is almost 8,000 yuan. Gao Zhou has just completed the certification and has no deeper understanding of the resource gap between certified players and non-certified players. The script score of nearly 8,000 points was considered a sky-high price in Gao Zhou's mind. It's enough to exchange for 2 good prop cards. 10,000. Su Tong patted Gao Zhou's shoulder to reassure him, and raised his hand to raise the price to over 10,000. Hey! Brother, you can't spend it like this if you have money. Hearing Su Tong shout out the price of 10,000 yuan, Gao Zhou felt as if he had raised a knife and struck his aorta. How many prop cards can be purchased with 10,000 script points? This price has far exceeded the value of this Millennium Demonic Yuan. However, Su Tong doesn't care about this. Millennium Demonic Essence is rare in nature, and what's more, De Ya's current injury needs something like this to nourish her most. Not to mention 10,000, he would be willing to pay even 20,000. 10,000 script points obviously exceeded the bottom line of too many people. In the end, those bidders withdrew from the bidding. After paying 10,000 script points, Su Tong also got this prop card. The moment he got the Millennium Demonic Element, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. 1,000-year-old demon essence, you need water scorpion gallbladder, 8 treasures snow lotus, loquat paste, snow grass, ginseng, and the true essence great Huaden. Su Tong was startled by the sudden sound, but soon understood that the sound should be the result of Danjing's obsession. So he frowned, calmed down, and tried to use his thoughts to communicate with this obsession. What is the use of the true essence great Huaden? The best medicine to promote cultivation and stabilize the soul. Obsession's reply was very simple, and it was exactly what Su Tong wanted. But he had ginseng on hand, and the rest. Thinking of this, Su Tong looked at the elf number 404 on the side. I need to buy some herbs. There are 3 pharmacies in the high-end exhibition area that specialize in selling herbal medicines. If the medicinal materials you need are not available yet, you can issue a reward, which is also a good choice. It is indeed a high-level exhibition area. With the presence of elves, a lot of troubles are avoided. You must know that this function is not available in low-level exhibition areas. Take me to the nearest drugstore. Okay, please follow me. The elf circled around Su Tong, then flew ahead to lead the way. As Gao Zhou walked away, he asked Su Tong if he had won money. Su Tong smiled and said nothing, but put all his 150,000 script points into the team warehouse. Suddenly Gao Zhou's eyes almost popped out. I have never seen such a large amount of money in my life. For a moment, I no longer had to worry about the 10,000 script points just now. Looking at how hopeless you are, I'll keep 20,000 yuan for the script in your hand, and put the rest into the team warehouse. Gao Zhou still has a large amount of his own script points, which add up to more than 200,000 yuan. Gao Zhou is enough to keep 20,000 yuan. The team warehouse allows team members to reserve item resources, greatly saving the number of pages in their personal prop books. However, the team leader can set permissions. For example, the permission to take out items can be set to core team members, allowing them to withdraw and store items freely. Non-core members can only store items. Su Tong's consent is required when items are taken out. As for the temporary members, don't even think about seeing them. If a team member dies, the items in the warehouse will not be lost. Even after the death of the team leader, the authority will be transferred to the next successor. Therefore, in the future, Su Tong will transfer large amounts of script points to the warehouse, and it is very convenient to withdraw them at any time when using them. Sir, if you need anything, we have all the medicinal materials here. After Su Tong walked into the drugstore, the clerk immediately greeted him warmly and handed over a list with various medicines and prices recorded on it. Su Tong took it and took a quick look, then put it aside casually. I need these 4 herbs, do you have them here? He said and handed over a piece of paper. Above are the medicinal materials that Danjing mentioned. Water scorpion gallbladder, 8 treasures snow lotus, loquat paste, and snow lotus. The waiter took a look and nodded. We all have these medicinal materials, but, water scorpion gallbladder, 8 treasures snow lotus, loquat paste, they are all easy to say. But swallow, is a bit expensive. Calculate the price. Su Tong didn't bother to ask the price. As he just said, De Ya's injury was too serious. It could no longer be recovered by just relying on the merits of incense. It needed this kind of medicine to enhance cultivation. No amount of money can be spared to treat one's own people. The waiter nodded, knowing that this was a big customer, so he didn't dare to neglect him. He hurriedly walked to the shopkeeper and whispered a few words, and the shopkeeper immediately came to greet him. Sir, water scorpion gallbladder, 8 treasures snow lotus, and loquat ointment are cheap for us. We can give them to you for free. Swillen grass is an extremely rare medicinal herb and requires 20,000 script points. Puff. When Gao Zhou heard this, he almost spit out the tea in his mouth. His eyes widened. 20,000, you guys are too dark. Even Su Tong frowned when he heard the price. After thinking for a moment, he used his mind to ask the elixir, is the snow po grass rare? Danjing's reply was very concise. After receiving Danjing's confirmation, Su Tong stopped talking nonsense and directly traded the 20,000 script points to the shopkeeper. Hey, sir, wait a moment. When the shopkeeper received the score for the script, his face suddenly became overjoyed and he hurriedly prepared the medicinal ingredients. In a short while, the medicinal materials were delivered to Su Tong one by one. Su Tong checked and made sure there was no problem. When he was about to leave, the shopkeeper suddenly called Su Tong, Sir, wait a moment. The shopkeeper came forward and whispered, the Millennium Demonic UN just now was taken by a guest officer. Hearing the shopkeeper's question, Su Tong's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly returned to normal. The shopkeeper was afraid that Su Tong would misunderstand, so he hurriedly explained, water scorpion gallbladder, 8 treasures snow lotus, loquat paste, Swipaco plus ginseng and Millennium Demonic Essence are the lost elixir, De Wei Dan, so I think that just now Millennium Demonic UN should have been taken by a guest officer. Well, I took the photo. Su Tong did not deny the Millennium Demonic Essence he had taken, but he also did not admit that he wanted to refine the Great Huaden. He just waited quietly for the shopkeeper's next step. We have a customer here who is in urgent need of this elixir and has entrusted us with it. If he is willing to exchange it, he can take out a dynamic prop card to trade. Dynamic prop cards. Su Tong really didn't expect someone to spend money like this. However, even if it is a dynamic prop card, De Ya is more important after all. Su Tong did not refuse directly and only said, I don't guarantee that I can refine it and there will be extra. If there is, I can consider it. Yes, that's the best. The medicine shop owner nodded repeatedly, knowing that this elixir was too rare. Not only was the material rare, but the biggest problem was that there were too few people who could refine this elixir. Even if he has a prescription in his hand, it won't work. The error tolerance rate is too low, so the boss actually doesn't have any hope in his heart. He just does his best and listens to fate. After walking out of the drugstore, Su Tong and Gao Zhou found a tea house, drinking tea while waiting for Gu Zibai. A pot of Nanhai Biluakun, the fragrance of tea is overflowing, coupled with the snacks prepared by the store, and listening to the little songs sung by the side, it really makes people feel comfortable. In his spare time, Su Tong is also screening prop cards. The big rhinoceros bow that his master brought back to him was not only powerful, but also made up for his shortcomings in long-distance attacks. However, his archery skills were really bad. Through the classification screening at the high-end exhibition, Su Tong quickly found several good archery prop cards. But I can't ask for so much. After all, archery is only a means to assist me and cannot be my main advancement direction. So 1 to 2 is enough. Besides, the rhinoceros bow has its own skills, which are enough for me. After choosing and choosing, I finally chose a copy of Wind Archery and bought it. Wind Archery. The holder's archery skill reaches mastery. Passive skill 1, well trained. The holder's archery accuracy increases by 20%. Passive skill 2, penetrating yang with 100 steps. The holder's archery accuracy increases by 10% within 100 meters. Active skill 1, 3 consecutive rounds. It costs 300 script points. After activation, it shoots 3 arrows at once. Cooling time, 20 seconds. This item card is not the best, but it is very practical, especially the passive effects such as archery mastery are exactly what I need. Most importantly, cheap. The price of this prop card is only 200 script points. It can only be said that the prop cards searched through this quick screening method are not very expensive in terms of price. Su Tong conveniently threw in his 5 bird capture hand, and the result was only given a score of 100 script points. The price is cheaper than in the ordinary exhibition area. Gao Zhou also exchanged a lot of prop cards. This guy is transforming into an assassin, summoning an assassin. The two of them waited for more than half an hour before Gu Zibai arrived late. I saw Gu Zibai walking into the tea house. After a quick glance at the previously agreed position, he stepped forward and asked tentatively, "Ma Hongwen." Hearing these words, Su Tong and Gao Zhou looked at each other and smiled, and Su Tong directly sent him the invitation to join the group. Gu Zibai didn't care at first, but after accepting the invitation, he was shocked to find that it was a silver level team. "Hey, how did you get to such a high team level?" Gu Zibai has not been a certified player for as long as Su Tong, but he is older than Gao Zhou. He has heard about team levels. A silver level team is not a small team. Su Tong actually started at the silver level, which made Gu Zibai feel more confident in this unfamiliar team. After he saw the team skills, his eyes suddenly widened. For a moment, he thought of Su Tong's prop card that could share damage, and the corner of his mouth twitched. I really doubt whether you kid is in the script. Do you have any relatives in the museum who have such team skills?" "I don't have any relatives, but I still have my eldest sister." Now that the team has been established and 2 members have been gathered together, Su Tong's next step is to find Chang Wuhan. This kid has not seen him for a long time, and he doesn't know how he is doing now. Su Tong knew this guy very well. When he was in the hospital, it was okay for him to hold him down. Now he is free and willing to do anything. It will be difficult to subdue him after he becomes a certified player. So the next step is to find a way to find Chang Wuju and pull this kid up. In fact, it is not difficult to find this boy. Su Tong calculated the time and estimated that this boy will definitely return to Luoyang next month, so he will just go back to find him then. However, these things still need to be done after oneself and Qingcheng Mountain settle accounts. The three of them sat together and talked a lot. Because he joined the team, Guzibai also had a sense of belonging, so he was able to relax. After a long chat, he learned that Guzibai's family was from Heilongjiang. If we had joined the team earlier, we might have made an appointment to take a shower together when we were in the northeast. Guzibai had some things at home recently, and planned to join Su Tong and the others after he was done. The three of them agreed on a time and tried their best to get together before the next script started. Then Guzibai left first, while Gao Zhou headed to the training ground, preparing to have a good experience here. Su Tong had no interest in the training ground. After exiting the exhibition, he did not return directly to reality. Instead, he returned to the script studio and walked to the bar. "Why are you back?" Aimee saw Su Tong go and come back, lying on the bar, holding the milk tea sent by Su Tong in her hand, sipping it slowly. Things that were not appraised last time should be appraised now. Oh. Aimee realized what Su Tong was talking about, and she immediately became energetic. "You have to think clearly, this is not a small sum of money. The appraisal fee of 100,000 script points is a sky-high price. This amount of money is enough for Su Tong to arm herself to the teeth. Although she can give Su Tong some preferential treatment within the scope of her authority, there is no room for concessions on such a level of appraisal fee. That's why I need to identify it as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this thing is put on my body, I will always panic thinking about it. Every time I think about it, it's like a cat scratching me." As Su Tong spoke, he took out a square box and placed it on the table. "This thing is the final super compensation extracted from Mr. Tai's treasure house after he applied for arbitration. Although it looks inconspicuous, it needs to occupy 4 separate slots in the prop book, and the prop book doesn't even give him an entry. The appraisal fee is as high as 100,000 script points, which is why Su Tong goes to the casino to make money. Now that I am rich, I just want to see what this thing is." After repeatedly confirming with Aimee, Su Tong readily paid 100,000 script points. It felt like spending a lot of money, and he had the demeanor of a top brother. Aimee took out her hammer and wiped it carefully. Even she was excited about such a big blind box and raised the hammer high above her head. Ah! The sledgehammer, which had burned 100,000 scripts, instantly burst into brilliant golden light. Boom! The entire script studio trembled. After the neon lights outside the door flickered for a few times, the dilapidated sign suddenly shattered and lost a corner. At night, I got up from a dying illness and got up to watch another watch.